Hello guys, hope all of you are doing great. In the last video, we have seen how we can make an AJAX call using jQuery and also how we can process an AJAX call on the server side using PHP programming language. Towards the end of the video, we added the AJAX functionality with this login page. What I mean is that when the user clicks on that login button, we wrote this JavaScript function that we want to be executed. That is, as soon as the user clicks on that login button, we want this JavaScript function to be executed. And inside that JavaScript function, what we did is we first checked if the user has specified some non-empty string for the username and password, then we are making an AJAX call. We are making an AJAX call to the server. And on the server side, what we're doing is, see here, this is the code that we want to be executed, or this is the PH server side file name where our AJAX handler is there. And on the server side, what we are doing is we are actually comparing the incoming or the incoming username and password against this fixed pair of username and password, right? And if it is a match, then we are sending this string okay back to the server, back to the client side program. Otherwise, we are sending an error to the client side program. Now, on the client side program, once that call is returned, once that AJAX call is returned, then what we're doing is we are comparing whether the return value is okay or not. If it is an okay, then we are displaying valid username and password on the screen. Otherwise, we are displaying invalid username and password on the screen. Now see, everything is fine with this implementation except this part of the code. Now what we are doing here in this part of the code in the AJAX handler on the server side, we are comparing the incoming username and password against a fixed pair of username and password, which is not like realistic, which is not practical. It is as if our login page only accepts only one user. No matter only when the user specifies the username as ABC123 and password as 123ABC, then only our server will accept that user as a valid user. For all the other possible username and password pairs, it will consider that thing as an invalid user. But see, in a real situation or in a practical situation, that system might have, or our application might have thousands of different users. So that time what we want to do is we want to compare these incoming user and password against a database table. That is the practical approach. Like that is how we should do the thing. And that is the thing actually that we are going to learn in this video. So in this video, what we're going to learn is like how from a PHP program we can make a connection to a database server, and how we can execute some SQL command from a PHP program, and how we can retrieve the return value by an how we can retrieve the retrieve and process the result of some SQL command programmatically. So all these things we are going to learn in this video. So what we are going to do, what I am going to do is the first thing that we will do is in the first part of the video, I will explain you the concepts like how to connect, how to execute, and how to retrieve. All these things I'll explain you irrespective of our project. Like in general, I'll explain you the concepts. And after that, at the end, in the second part of the video, what I'll do is I'll not actually in the second part, actually in the last few minutes of the video, what we will do is we'll use the concepts that we learn in the first part of the video to fix this problem here. Okay. Okay, we'll see that at the end of the video, but till then just hold on. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to explain you the concepts irrespective of our project. So for that reason, what I want you people to do is see here, these are the main folders of our project, right? All our project related code we want to store inside those folders. So for that reason, since I'm going to explain you the concept irrespective of this project, what I want you people to do is I want you people to create a PHP file outside any of these folders. Okay, let's create a file there. I just right click there and select that new file and give it a name. So for example, I'm calling it db1.php. I want that file to be a PHP file. For that reason, I'm giving the extension as PHP. As soon as I do that, you see this PHP file is created. Now done, this part is done. Now let's come to the main point. Now see here, what is the main thing that we need is that we need a database. We need a, at least a table there in the database, right? So these things at minimum we need to proceed in this video. So till now we have not done anything with the database, right? Although we have only one thing we did with respect to the database. That thing is that we installed that MySQL database. And how did we install that? When we install gem server, as I said, no, when you install gem server, automatically it has installed that database server also in your computer. Now let's now for the first time access that database server. How we are going to access it? So there are some ways. Now the best way is that what you can do is you, in your search bar in your computer, you type there gem, okay, so that you can open that gem app. So this will appear and you just click there. It will open this particular window on the screen, and there you might not see it in this way. You might actually see it in this way. So that is both your Apache and MySQL server might be in off state. So what you have to do is, first thing is that, as I said in my first video or maybe in the second video, that you have to turn them on. Okay, so I'm turning on my Apache server, turning on my SQL server. Now see, this is your SQL server actually. Okay, now once you turn on the SQL server, to access the SQL server, what you do is you click on this admin button against this MySQL server. Okay, you click there. As soon as you click there, you might see a window something like this. So that time what you do is you see here, you open that gem control panel again, and there you will see this port number against this Apache server. Okay, so here right now it is written as 8000. So what you do is here localhost, and then you write there that port number 8000. Okay, and then you press enter. See, once I do that change and press enter, then I'll see this particular window. Or rather than calling it window, I would like to call it this, this particular web page. Okay, now this is actually a graphical user interface to the MySQL server, which was installed when you installed gem in your computer. To this particular database server, this window these window is a graphical user interface. What you can do is you can interact with this database server graphically with the help of this particular web page. Okay, now let's the first thing, what is the first thing that we need? The first thing that we need is we need a database, right? So for that reason, what you do is you click on this new button, which is there on your left hand side panel. You just click there, new, and it will ask you here, you specify the name of your database. So let's say we are calling our database as our database. Okay, you can call it anything, but I'm calling it, say, our database. And then you rest of the thing you let it be as it is, and you click on this create button. As soon as you create button, you will see on your left hand side panel that newly created database will also appear with the rest of the items. Okay, and then once the database is created, what is the next thing that we want? See, we know, right? A relational database means it is a collection of some tables. So at minimum we need one table to be there in our database, so that we can learn the basic concepts with respect to that particular table. So for the time being, we need only one table, and let's create the table. Again, I'll be doing it graphically. I'll be taking help of this graphical user interface to create the table. So for that reason, first thing you need to do is you have to select that particular database just by clicking on that database. So how will you know that that particular database is selected? If you see here, as pointed by this my mouse pointer, here the name database colon, that name should appear here as our database if you have selected our database. Okay, now it means right now that currently selected database is our database, and there we want to create a table. So for that reason, it is, see, this option, create table option is there, and that is asking you to specify the name of the table. So I'm writing the name of the table as, say, student details, student_details, student details. And then number of columns, by default it will offer you space or provision to now fill the details of 4 columns. Okay, let this thing be as it is, and you click on this go button. Okay, go and see here what it is happening. What is happening is that it is giving you provision to specify the details of 4 columns. If you need some extra column, then you can you can write the number of extra columns that you want, then you can click on go there. Okay, automatically provisions will graphical provision will be displayed here to specify the details of those columns also. But right now we are happy with 4 column, and let me 4 columns, and let me fill the details here first. So first column I want to call is this ID column. Okay, the name of the column I'm specifying as ID, and the type of that column I'm specifying as integer. Length, if you want, you can write here a number like that many digits. For that column. And then one property I want to specify here is this particular column I want to be to have this auto increment field. Auto increment field means what? Every time you insert a row, automatically the value of this particular column will be incremented, and by default the increment value is 1. Okay, and then the next column I want, say, the roll number of the student, roll number, and then the type of this column I'm specifying varchar. The number of characters I want to be maximum 50 characters, and rest of the things, okay, I do not have to specify anything there. And then here I want what is the name of the student. Suppose that also I want to store in this table. So name, and then varchar, and then say 100 characters maximum for that column. And the important one is your password, because we want to actually like, see here what is our goal, that roll number and the password, we want to store at least these 2 pieces of information in this table. So I'm creating it in that way. So roll number and password. This name I'm just creating an extra column. We might use it. So here you can change the structure of the table anytime you want, so you do not need to worry. For the time being, we just need a table with these minimum requirement is that at least it should have 2 columns, roll number and password. These I'm creating some extra thing. Okay, do not worry. The varchar, and then password is 100 characters, and done. And then once you specify the details of these 4 columns, you can click on this save button, which is there on your right hand side bottom. You click on this save button, then as soon as you click on save, this table will be created for you. Now see one thing here, now we want to apply a constraint on this roll number column, right? By default, this column doesn't have any constraint. But what constraint we want to apply on this particular column? We want the value of this particular column to be unique. That is, no 2 rows have the same value for this column. That is, we do not want to have 2 rows which have the same roll number. That is, and that is quite common, right? Because see here, that roll number is actually we are using as username. So we do not want 2 users to have the same username. Okay, so for that reason, we want to apply a unique constraint on this particular column. And graphically, I'm going to do that. And how you can do that? With the help of this graphical user interface, you can click on this more button. Like if you click there, you will see that this drop down menu will appear, and from there you click on this, you select this unique option. As soon as you select this unique option, it will ask you whether you want to execute. See here, ultimately what will happen is this particular SQL command will be executed. Alter table student details, and there we want to add a constraint, and that constraint name is unique constraint, and this is the column where we want to apply that unique constraint, right? And since I want to do that, I'll be clicking on OK. As soon as I do that, you will see that this symbol will appear on this against the name of against this roll number column. That indicates graphically that this is a this is a column which have this unique key constraint. Okay, done. Now, before proceeding, so we have done the thing actually. The minimum requirement we completed. That is, what is the minimum requirement? The first thing is that we created a database whose name is our database, and inside the database we created a table whose name is student details. These things are done. And before proceeding further, let's insert some records there in this table. Right now, if you double click on this table, you will see that no rows are there in this table. But let's first insert a few rows there, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the things. So for that reason, the inserting records into the table, I'll not do graphically. I'll prefer writing commands. Okay. So for that reason, if you want to write command and execute commands from this graphical user interface, what you do is you click on this SQL tab. As soon as you click on this SQL tab, it will by default always it will come up with this select command with the currently selected table. If you have multiple table and suppose you selected that particular table and then you clicked on this SQL, it will come like select star from that other table name. Okay. But anyhow, this is not the command that I want to execute. What I want to execute is insert command. Insert into table name is student details, and there the column names, right? In any order I can specify, say for example, roll number, and then name, and then password. See here, I'm not specifying the ID column because that was, that was like we added that extra property auto increment. So even if we do not specify any value, automatically it will take some value. By default, I guess it will start from 1, and then every time I insert a new record, it will be incremented by 1. Okay, so you do not need to specify that auto increment column explicitly by yourself. That is the, normally that is the approach that we take. And then values you can specify, but since all of them are specified as varchar, so you have to write all these 3 values within single quotation. That's the syntax, right? And roll number, say for example, the first student I want to insert is CSB21001, and then the name, say for example, first student is Prakash Kumar. Password, say I'm keeping ABC123. Done. And let me insert another row, and then I'll copy these and I'll paste it here. The roll number I want to be, say, roll number 2. The name, say Akshay Kumar this time. Akshay, most probably Akshay Kumar, and the password, let it be like that, 2 rows. And let me insert another row. Okay, the third one is a CSM. For some reason it's a B, I'm writing CSM, roll number 1, and the name, say for example Andrew Thomas, and then password, let it be again 123 ABC 123, and done. And I'm clicking on this go button. As soon as I click on go button, 3 rows should be inserted, and it is done. Let's again click on this SQL, and this is the command actually I wanted to write. So without doing any change, I'll be clicking on this go button, and as a result, you'll see that these are the 3 rows there currently in our table. Done. Our table is also created, and we have inserted some records there also, and also we have inserted some records there. So the basic things are done. Now the next part, the main part now. And what is the next part? Like how we can connect programmatically from a PHP program, how we can connect with these database. Like see here, we want to, from a PHP program, we want to connect with these our database, and then we might want to actually execute some command involving this particular table. Okay, let's first see the connection part, like how actually we can connect with these our database inside this MySQL server. Okay, to do that, see, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. See, connecting with the database from a PHP program, the code which is needed, that is always the same. No matter whether you do it, I do it, or any other programmer do it, does that. It is usually and always, most of the times, it is the same code. And so instead of writing it from scratch, what we're going to do is, we are going to, yeah, we are going to take it. We are going to take the help of Google then. Okay, so what you do is you open Google, and there you type PHP MySQL, and then say W3 schools. Okay, you click there, and PHP MySQL database W3 schools. That link will appear, and you click on that link. Now see here you will get actually, with PHP you can connect to and manipulate databases. MySQL is the most popular database system used with PHP. Yeah, that is true. See here, MySQL is not the only one type of database, or it is not the only one database server available. There are others also, like as another most commonly used is Microsoft SQL Server, right? So you can basically from a PHP program you can connect it to all these different types of servers. But here as you see here, when we install database server, our programming language was PHP and the database which was installed was MySQL. So we are basically working with PHP and the MySQL. So, having said so, you see how we can connect with MySQL. So you click on this MySQL Connect. Okay, there you will see that there are two options you have actually to connect with the database. One is MySQL I extension. This is one library that will allow you to connect and execute different. That will allow you. That will give you different APIs to perform these as database operations. Another option that you have is this PDO, PHP data objects. Okay, you can use any one of these library to perform your task. So what I am going to do is I'm going to make use of this PDO library. Okay, that is I'm going to make use of this PDO option available. Now, if you want, you can read like, should I use MySQLi or PDO? Basically, both of them will work fine. Uh, However, the thing is that this MySQLi, as the name itself indicates that this library will allow you only to connect with a MySQL server. Okay. However, this PDO will allow you to connect with different types of server like Microsoft SQL Server or some other servers. Also, see here, PDO will work on 12 different database systems. Now you might be thinking like, what are those 12 different database systems? So for that reason, what you can do is I can point to. So what you can do is you can actually go to the official documentation of PDO, and how you can go to that documentation. How you can get that documentation in your Google? You type PDO PHP. If you type that much, yeah, this the first link, www.php.net. This is the official website for PHP. You just click there, you will get all the details that you need to know about PDO in this manual. Okay, but for this video I do not want the people to, I mean, it is not needed that you have to actually read anything from this documentation. However, this is a good source. I mean, like say after seeing this video, you want to explore something more about this, some more advanced features about database and PHP programming, then certainly you can explore it. You can explore the thing from this documentation. But here, why did I like bring you here? That to show you what are the other different types of databases that you can connect with. Yeah, see here, database specific PDO drivers. So here you see these are different types of databases you can connect with. Say for example, if you want to connect with Microsoft SQL Server, then you have to use a different driver. Driver means that is that's a collection of programs or APIs with respect to that particular database. Suppose if you want to connect with Microsoft SQL Server, then you have to use this driver or this set of APIs. And then if you want to connect with IBM Informix Dynamic Server, then you have to use this driver. Okay, and suppose if you want to use MySQL Server, then you have to use this driver. Now, see, one thing I want to tell you, that if you want to connect with Microsoft SQL Server, then this driver means, again, see, you can think it is a piece of software actually. So this driver you might have to install explicitly by yourself. Or suppose you want to connect with this particular type of database, then you might have to actually download this driver explicitly. However, if you want to connect with MySQL database server, then this driver actually you do not have to install explicitly. That comes always with PHP. I mean, like when you install the XAMPP server, automatically that driver was also installed. So you do not need to worry about installing anything explicitly. However, if it is a different database, then certainly you might have to actually, you can try it by yourself. You might have to install the other, that the corresponding driver by yourself. Okay, that is just a side note. But as long as you are working with PHP and MySQL, you do not have to worry about all these things. Okay, then having said so, let's move back again to our main point. That is our goal right now. Our temporary goal is that we how to connect with a connect with the MySQL server from a PHP program, and that's what we're looking for in this W3 Schools website. And there, as I said, now here, if you click on MySQL Connect, there you will get, now as it is saying, as this page is saying that you have two different options, either MySQL I extension or PDO option. So as I said, in this video series, we'll be using this PDO option, okay? So for that, you just scroll down and then see PDO installation. You do not have to install anything because already it is installed. As soon as you install that Gem server, it is already installed in a computer with a very high probability. Okay, but again, if you face any problem, you people can let me know it in the comment section. I'll try to solve the issues. But I know, as long as, no, no, as far as I know, you should not face any problem. Okay, so what you have to do is then, you see, yeah, you scroll down to this example PDO. This is the general structure, or this is the, like, what this is the general, you can say this is the general structure, or the minimum, the minimum code to connect with MySQL database from a PHP program using this PDO option. Okay, so what you do is you copy that code and you paste it in the PHP file. You remember at the beginning of the video we created a PHP file. In that PHP file you paste that. After pasting it, you see here, like, what are the things, now let's read this code and try to make sense out of it. Okay, what it is saying. Now the server name is localhost. Now see, if now by default, when you are developing in your development phase, it is assumed that the database server is in the same computer where actually you're doing the development. So if it is the same computer, then you'll be writing here localhost. Otherwise, you'll be writing here some IP address, like say, the IP address of the computer where that database server is installed. For the time being, do not worry. Like, if it is in the same computer, you just keep it as it is, localhost. And then this username. By default, whenever this MySQL database has a root user, and that username is your by default root. Okay, and by default, the password for that root user is blank. I'll be showing you like how to create a user in MySQL database and how to set password there. So these are some default things. Okay, first we'll try with these default things, and then we'll try to change the things once we have that basic understanding of the default things. Then what we do is, yeah, okay, done. And the next line, you see, this is actually is the instruction that makes a connection with the database server. So again, you see, this dollar means what? It is a PHP variable, CONN. But this CONN is just the name of a variable. You can keep anything. You can call this variable by any name you want. So you can call it by the name. Say for example, ABC also, no problem. Okay, so ABC is equal to, but CONN looks more meaningful. Okay, anyhow, this is just a variable, and this new keyword, actually what does it do is it creates an object of a class. I mean, this PDO, when you write this PDO, and in this way, basically what you're doing is you're creating an instance of the class PDO. This is like, if you know object oriented programming, then these things should make sense. But even if it doesn't make sense, you do not need to worry. See here, yeah, in this project, certainly we are going to make use of some up to some extent, we are going to make use of this object oriented programming concept. But when I in today's video only, I'll be showing you some of them. But you do not need to worry. And see, one thing I want to tell you, that to make a connection, always this is the code. This code you do not have to change much, actually, and that is, as a programmer, I mean, your credit is, whenever you want to connect, it is as if, like, whenever you want to make a call from your mobile phone, you just know like how to make a call. That everybody does the thing in the same way. I mean, there is no secret there, actually. Okay, the same thing here also. Only thing is that you need to know which field is doing what. That's all. If you have that much of understanding, then it's okay, fine. And okay, now let's continue. Now here, what we are doing is we are creating an instance of this PDO class, and then this part, this MySQL part, like this, actually it is specifying the name of the driver. Since you are working with MySQL database, then the name of the driver is MySQL. But if you're working with a Microsoft SQL database, then here you have to write the name of the corresponding driver there. And from where you can get the help, suppose for some reason you want to connect with this Microsoft SQL server from a PHP program, then as I said, now you can go to that PDO PHP manual, and there you will get the details like what you have to do if you want to connect with any one of these different type of database. Okay, suppose it is Microsoft SQL server, then you have to go like, click on that particular link, and then it will tell you like from where that you can get the driver and how you can install and how you can use them. Okay, and this is again just a side note. If you want, you can take the help from this particular site. But again, let me continue from here. Yeah, okay. This is the name of the driver, and then host is equal to server name. As the like from here, you should be able to make sense. Like this is the like see host is equal to, this is a variable name whose value is specified as localhost. It means this is the actually this points to the computer where your SQL server is installed. So for the time being, localhost will work fine. But if it is in a different computer, you can mention the IP address of that computer. Say, for example, 192.168.3.23. Say, for example, you are working on a LAN, and this is the IP address of the computer where that my SQL server is actually installed, not in the computer from where you are writing the code. So in that case, you can mention the IP address of that particular computer. But if it is in the same computer, in as it is the case with most of the cases, so you can write there localhost. Okay, and then this db name is equal to mydb. These property, these attribute db name, actually here you have to specify the name of the database. You remember here we just created a database whose name is, here we created a database, our database. This name you have to specify there in this db name. Now you might be thinking like, why did I write like a variable there and there directly the name of the database? Yeah, that you can do here also. Like for example, you can declare a database a variable called database name, and there you can store the name of your database. Like database, our database name is our database, right? And then put a semicolon there. And then db name is equal to, now what I want here, the value of the variable database name, right? Database name there. So, and then this username, by default, the username is root for this MySQL Server installation. When you install MySQL Server using XAMPP, and by default, the password is blank. Okay, that will, like as I said, now we'll see with different username and password in a moment, but let's stick with the default thing. And then what, yeah, done. And then this line, now for the time being, you remember you have to write this line as it is, and this line is very useful for handling errors, like handling exceptional cases. Now see, whenever we write code, like say for example we are writing an SQL command, there we might do some syntax error, like I didn't say we might forget to put a comma there, or maybe we might forget to close parentheses there. So at that time, in those situations, some error occurs, right? And if we want our PDO to report those errors properly, in a proper way, so that we can handle them properly, then you always have to set these attribute, in this way, like set the PDO error mode to exception. Basically, what it will, whenever such error occurs, PDO will throw some exception, and those exceptional cases, those exceptions we can handle using these try catch blocks. Okay. But anyhow, for the time being, you need to know that these line for proper error handling, you have to set this to, you have to write this line as it is. Okay. And then here, for simplicity, we are like just to show that the connection is successful. We are displaying here echo connected successfully. Otherwise, if any error occurs, like say for example, I write here some other computer name which doesn't exist, or suppose username wrong or password is wrong, or maybe the database name itself is wrong, or anything, any exceptional case if happens, then this particular instruction will not be able to make a connection with the database, and that time it will throw an exception. So yes, in that situation certainly we want to know, and that time this message will appear on the screen. If anything goes wrong, then this will appear on the screen. Otherwise, this message will appear on the screen. So this is the like the minimum code that we have to write to make a connection with the database. Okay. Here let's execute this part of the code. Now where it is, how can we execute this code? I know, say here it is there in db1.php. So you go to your browser, and then you type there localhost 8000 port number, and there, what is that? Our project, yes, there we have db1.php. Press enter. So it is saying that connected successfully. Okay, let's do some changes here. So for example, I specify the username as root 12, not root 12, and then I try to execute this program. What happens? It's saying that connection failed and access denied for the user root 12. Okay, that is using password. No, I have not specified any password. Okay, now you know, right? Like that name should be correct. And suppose instead of writing localhost, I write localhost 12, and then I try to execute this program. And this time what will happen? Since I write localhost 12, actually what will happen is, see, it's still, this symbol you will see, it's still busy. I mean, it's trying to connect with that particular computer. It is just thinking that there is a computer who's in the LAN whose name is localhost 12, and that's why it is trying to give, it was trying actually. Now see here, at the end it realized, okay, there is no such host is known. Actually, it never found a computer whose name is localhost 12 in my LAN. Okay, and for that reason it ended up with these exception or these error messages on the screen. See here, these are some mistakes that you can do, you might do actually. But you should realize, like, these are things. Suppose if I give here now a wrong database name, say a database 78, then what will happen even if I give everything right? Now see, unknown database 78. Okay, so those things should be correct. Okay, that is the name of the computer, the username and password and everything. Now I said, no, this is the default username and password. Let's see how we can create a user in MySQL database server using this graphical user interface. So what you do is you open that PHP myadmin, and then you click on this PHP myadmin there on the left hand side panel top. You will see PHP myadmin written. You click there. As soon as you click there, you will your graphical user interface should look something like this. That is the web page which is being displayed to you. That is basically it is saying PHP myadmin index.php web page is shown to you. There you will see these user accounts. You click there, user accounts, then you should get a list of different user accounts, like what is the username, what is the host name, password, and some other things. Okay, so let's create a new user there. Like I'm clicking on, to create a new user, you have to click on this add new user. So you click there, and then username. What is the username that you want? So for example, we want this username to be uh, what, Prakash. And host name, it's any, I mean any host, or you can say local host. Okay, let that thing be any. And then use password. What is the password that we want? So for example, I want the password to be admin123. It's weak password, but I'm just giving you some, demonstrating you something. So I mean, that this account anyhow I'm not going to use. And then retype the password admin123. And one is global privileges, check on. That is, I want to give all these, I want these user to do all these different things there. Okay, and I'm clicking on go, and the Prakash is created. Okay, let's see again, what is this Prakash? Where is Prakash? Okay, Prakash, host name is any, and password is there, and all privilege, yes. What is the password? A password is there, but it is not showing what is the password certainly. And then let's try with this Prakash account now. Okay, that is, I'm giving the server name as localhost, username as Prakash, and then I write the password as blank, and the database name, everything is same except this username. I changed only the username. Okay, and you remember this username is actually associated with the password there, and but I didn't specify the password this time. Then let's see what happens. not this one, this page. Now this is the page. Now see, access denied for Prakash localhost. Using password, no, I have not specified any password. That might be the reason. So password was admin123, and this time let's try whether it works or not. Now it is see connected successfully. Now see, these are the things that you know that you should know. I mean that you should take care of. Like what is the name of the computer here, or here see again I'm saying this is in this case, like if your SQL server is in the same computer from where you're writing the code, then it is localhost. Other than that, if the computer where that MySQL server is installed, it is there, in a network, maybe over the internet or maybe over the LAN. So accordingly, you have to specify the IP address here. Okay, like if it is in, whatever the IP address of that computer, and that IP address should be, that computer should be accessible from your computer, maybe over internet or maybe over LAN. Okay, and that thing you have to write here properly. Okay, I hope things are now clear. And now let's move forward. Now, what we did here is that we learned like how we can create a connection. Then what else that we can do? Like, okay, once the connection is created, then what? Once the connection is created, then certainly we'd like to make use of that connection. Why do we create a connection? We create a connection because we want to execute some SQL commands there. Maybe the SQL command is for creating a table, or maybe selecting some data from the table, or maybe deleting some data from the table, or maybe any type of SQL command we want to execute on that particular connection. So for that reason, what we have to do is, now let's see, our connection is done, and then how we can actually execute a command there. Now that is the important part, like how to execute SQL commands on this connection. One connection is made now, or we want to execute some SQL command on this connection. So how do we do that? So for that reason, let me start with a very simple example, and then I'll elaborate that example. I'll try to expand that example. Okay. So first thing is, let me like let me try with the minimum one first thing. Okay, let's create a variable first. Okay, and then I'm calling it a command cmd. This is just a variable name. Okay, and there I'm trying to store, I'll store a string there. I mean normal string, but the thing is the content of that string will be an SQL command. Say for example, select okay, not select command. I want to say, for example, I'll start with insert command. Okay, and then I'll make use of that select command. You'll come to know why I have selected, why I'm using insert command. Say insert into the sorry insert into student details, and then here the column names are roll number, name, and password, and the values are like simplification, like this is the part of the syntax. And what is the roll number we want? CSB 21000, say from 9, 21009. Okay, and then roll number, name, say for example, anything you want, say for example, Ramesh, Ja, and the password ABC123. Now suppose this is just a string, huh? Do not you worry. I mean, no, nothing to do with all this database and everything. The only thing is that the content of the string is actually it is similar to an SQL command. Now suppose this is the command that we want to execute on this particular connection. Okay. Now how we can do that? See here on this, when I say on this particular connection, means see here this connection is actually pointing to this particular, it is a connection with this particular database which is there in this computer, and to the credentials are like this is the username and this is the password. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to execute this particular command on that database, that is on that connection, we can say it in that way. How do you do that? You can make use of like the dollar, you can directly call this in this way, the dollar arrow connection arrow, and then execute and use this command. See, parameter it needs okay, do not worry about this arrow, I'm just going to tell you in a moment, but this is the function that we want to execute, and what this function is expecting is this, execute this dollar statement. What is this statement? Is the type of this statement variable is your string. Basically what it is expecting here is that it is expecting a string, something like this. Okay, and you can write these entire string inside this particular within this double quotation, no problem, but the thing is that I prefer it in this way, that is store the string in a variable and then you write the name of the variable here. It looks, it makes the code more readable, at least in my point of view. So why I wrote these arrow, you see here, that is actually part of the syntax. As I said, no, like when we did this new PDO, this thing, actually what did we do is we are creating here an object of the class PDO. And see, and the notation is that, like, the class and objects, right? Uh, I hope, I mean, because that is, anyhow, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to use actually at least, although I'll not go into the details of object-oriented programming in PHP, but you should know this thing. The class and object, like, say, for example, we have a class, I'm just giving you an example, okay? We have a class called dog, and then we have like private, say a variable called say private integer, although we are not going to, this PHP is not like, you do not have to specify data type. So I'm writing it in like, say, for example, a C++ class, private integer, and what is the name of the dog. Okay, and then you can write like, say, a function there, like, say, public void and say bark is the function. Okay, and that function does something. Suppose this is a class, right? In more or less this is a class in C++. How do you create an object of class? Dog d, you can create is equal to new dog, that way, right? So this is a like an object you are creating. Actually in C++ you create the object in this way, but in PHP you create the object in this way. I mean, the same new keyword you use, the same type of, like, the same the name of the class you use to create the instance of create an instance of that particular class. But that arrow mark I was telling you, right? So if it is C++, then what you do, what you know is that if you want to access anyone, say there is a variable here, data member here, like public, okay, public integer, say anything, say x there. Now if you want to access this x, then how do you do that? You write d dot x, that is, you are actually, x is equal to something, say for example 29 for some reason. So that X is a data member of the class dog, and D is an object of the class dog, right? So if you want to access a data member or maybe a data member or a member function, if you want to access a member of a class using the name of the variable, I mean using an object, then what you do is you use this dot operator. And that is the case with most of the programming languages like C++ or C hash or Java, like that, right? But in PHP, the syntax is a bit different actually. The same concept here, but the syntax is, suppose this class dog is a class written in PHP, and D is an instance of that class. So what will you do is you will create the variable in this way: $D is equal to new dog. That is, you are actually creating an instance of the class dog. Okay, and you are storing that instance in D. And then what you do is, suppose using this D you want to access any one of them, okay, other than this private. Suppose you want to access this X, or you want to call this function part, then what will you do is you will write $d arrow, not a dot. You will write $d arrow x is equal to 29, and or suppose you want to call that bark function, so you'll be writing $d arrow bark. So you do not need to, afraid of that particular arrow mark. It is not doing anything, like it is, it's not a new concept you are learning. Actually, it is the same old like class and object things that you already know. Only thing is that syntax is slightly different. Instead of writing a dot, what you're doing is you're writing this arrow mark. Okay, and again, you do not like need to connect this arrow with the the arrows that you learned in C pointers, right? C pointers and structures and all this stuff, right? So that do not need to afraid of that you do not need to be afraid of those things. I mean, those things will not come into play. You just do not need to worry. It's very simple. Only thing is that this arrow is just coming like as part of the syntax. Okay, that's all. Like what you're doing basically is that you are actually accessing a data member or a member function using an object name. Okay, and that instead of writing a dot, that happens with most of the programming languages like C++, C hash, or Java. There we might be using dot, but here in PHP we have to use this arrow mark. Okay, that's all. Nothing to do with pointers or anything. Okay, you do not need to worry about it. So here, what is happening here is, now see, as I said, now this is the new PDO. It means what? We're creating an object of PDO class, and this connection is now now an object. And in these object, and this PDO class supports a member function whose name is your execute function. Okay, exec function. So what you do is you have to, using this object, you have to call that function. So what you have to do is dollar connection. This is the name of the object. Arrow mark you have to use because this is an object, and you want to call this execute function of the class. So dollar connection arrow execute, and here as it is expecting a string, so you're specifying the string. So basically you are executing this command. Okay, so this is the simplest way you can execute a command in PHP. Although this is not you are going to use in like most of the times you'll be using more. There are some more sophisticated way of doing the thing. So this is just the starting point. Okay, let's see whether it actually does the task or not. Okay, that is, suppose this connection is made, and on this connection we are trying to execute this particular command. Okay, right now in our database, there is no where is the database? Yes, SQL. So I'm talking about this particular table, SQL. Select this thing, go. Yeah, right now we do not have any student whose roll number is 9, like CSV 21009 is not there. And if this command is successfully executed, this row will also appear in this table. Let's see whether it works or not. How do we do that? Refresh this page. No message is coming on the screen. But again, if I try to execute this command, it might and show me some error. Because why? Okay, let's first see after the execution of the after executing the page, whether it does any change in the database or not. Okay, let's see. SQL done. See this Ramesh Jha, that CSB 21009, this particular row is inserted. It means what? This command was actually executed successfully. Now see, if I try to execute the same script, same PHP file again, certainly as expected, you will get some error because it will try to insert the same roll number once again as a new row. So you'll get fatal error, uncaught PDO exception, and all these things will appear on the screen. So it is showing that fatal error. So those situations, if you want to handle, see, actually this one thing of interest is there, although it is an error, like uncaught PDO exception. This exception thing. Whenever it is an exception, it is a good idea that like any command or any instruction that might throw an exception, you should handle those exceptions using by writing those instructions within this try catch block. So what we can do is we can put this command within this try catch block by try, and then this is this thing will write inside try, and then if any one of these instructions throws an error, we'll try to catch it within this catch block. Uh, PDO exception, then $EE. And then there we can display like whatever that exception message is, echo $EE arrow, get message, uh, get message, arrow message, get message. Okay, send that. Let's now try to execute this. Okay, now it's that error message is like properly displayed at least, right? Now, integrity constraint violation 1062 duplicate entry this key of for key roll number. At least it is like not no, it doesn't make you afraid, right? I mean, if, when you see like something fatal error or something, you might think, okay, what will happen now? My computer will blast or what? That's anyhow, just kidding, don't worry. Okay, then next part then. Okay, now you know like this is the basic, I mean the simplest way of executing a command. Okay, but again, as I said, now there are some other options also, other ways also, you know. So and those are the ways that we will be using. It's just to show you that you know the basic version. I showed you this thing. Now let's move forward and how we can you know, like what are the other options that we have. Now, see, one option you have, actually not many, but let me tell you, we are going to make use of the concept of prepared statement. Now, what is that? Now, what is that? If you see here, like, yeah, you can read it, but here, um, now this W3 school again, PDO, W3 school, and then prepared statement. I'm just prepare. I'm writing it in that way. Prepared statements. Okay, we're going to make use of this concept. It has some advantages. Prepared statements basically works. Why it is useful? Because the prepared statements, what does it do? Is it creates a template that you can use again and again. No, doesn't it make any sense for you? Okay, no problem. What you can do is you can read certainly. Okay, I'll show you an example, and then you can read later on. You can read these documentation. Okay, but for the time being, to start with, you do not need to I know read this thing. Another good place again is that PHP documentation. Okay, that is PDO prepare and PHP manual there. Okay, there also you will get some advantage of using prepare statement. For execution returns a statement object. Yeah, that is true. And why you should use it? Why you should use it now? That's a question then. There are some reason actually why you should use prepare statement there. Why do we use? I mean, it gives you certainly. I mean, it has a lots of advantages, but then also just to show you, yep, right here. Prepared statement. Many or more of the things, these prepared statements offer two major benefits. Okay, these are the two major benefits that it offers. See the query. First option is that like first benefit is that it makes you no, it is faster. Okay, and why it is faster? The reason is written here actually. The query only needs to be parsed once, but it can be executed multiple times. What does it mean? I'll show you with the help of an example. Okay, and with the same or different parameters. When the query is prepared, the database will analyze, compile, and optimize its plan for executing the query. For complex queries, this process can take up enough time that will noticeably slow down an application if there is a need to repeat the same query many times with different parameters. See here, this is actually ultimate the thing that is that particular paragraph is saying is that this way of writing your command is expensive, you know, in terms of execution time. Okay, means before executing this command, actually, although like it happens smoothly for us, but internally the computer has to do a lots of things there. Okay, so that's why these approach, according to that paragraph, it is saying that these approach is typically slower. Okay, but we can, with the help of these prepared statements, what we can do is we can make these execution of a command, the execution type of a command, we can make faster. And another advantage is that it offers you some benefits against SQL injection. Okay, like see here, SQL injection is still, yeah, it is possible, but the thing is that it offers some protection, some default protection against SQL injection. So those things you can read, those theory you can read from here. But let me show you some practical examples, and you will be able to use them. I mean, um, although you might not be able to tell like why exactly you're using prepared statement. I mean, but that is the standard, like nowadays if you're writing code in PDO and PHP, then you might have to, actually you have to use this prepared statement, because it is giving you, it is faster. That should be like quite a good reason for using using prepared statement. Okay, because it is faster. So now let's like go to that point, like what is a prepared statement, and I mean how we can make use of it, with the help of some practical example. Okay, let's do it. So for that reason, what you have to do is okay, let's actually, yeah, when I show you this example, you'll come to know like how it works. I mean, no, what happens actually, you'll be able to create a template, actually, sort of, you'll be able to create a template of the command, and then you will be able to execute the template with different inputs. That is what we do with a prepared statement. Okay, we'll write everything inside this try catch block. There, what we want to do is, first thing is, again, the command here. Okay, I'll write it instead of copying it. Dollar command. This is just a string, huh? Do not you worry. And then there, what I want is that insert into student details, student underscore details. Yes. And there I want up to this point, no change, roll number, and then name, and then password. Okay. Insert into student details this, and then values. Here, instead of directly specifying the value, what I'll do is I'll specify some placeholder. This colon. How do you specify a placeholder? Colon, and then write the name of a variable. Anything that you want, you can write. You can give a name to the placeholder, actually. Okay, and say I'm calling it, say the same name I'm giving, roll number, comma, but it is not needed that should be same as this name. Okay, so for that reason I'm putting an extra t there in front of this name, just to show you that these two things might not be the same. This is a placeholder, and these are certainly the column names. It should match with the name of the column names of the table, but here these are some placeholder name you are giving. You can basically call them anything you want. Roll number, but it is a good thing that you give some meaningful name there so that you do not get confused. Roll number, t name, and then again password. Okay. Why did I put this t? Just to show you that they always need not to be the same. Okay. Done. And these are some placeholders, actually. What I mean by placeholders again, it means what? Okay, now first let me write it. Then from this command, what we can do is we can create a prepared statement. What is that? Okay, let me write it, then you'll come to know. Command is equal to, this is the command, this is the string version of the command, and then I want to write I want to make use of that connection object. The connection object is always useful. That connection object, on that connection object, I want to call this function prepare. Okay, and then inside this prepare function I want to pass this command, I mean that string actually, that is I want to create a template for this particular SQL command, and that template, it returns actually an object of a class called statement. Okay, and you can store the return value returned object in any variable you want, so I'm storing it in a variable template. Okay, I'm trying to give a meaningful. It means what it is doing is it is creating a template for these particular SQL command. I mean, where these are some placeholders. That is, these placeholders you can bind now. Okay, one way of doing it is actually the thing is that it will create this template is now just a template. It doesn't, for these you can see like in this template you are creating three holes there. You have to fill those three holes before executing the command. Now what? The same command you can execute again and again. Okay, so okay, let me finish it first. So the thing is, these are, as I said, no, these are placeholders. So you have to actually bind actual value with those placeholders before executing the command. Okay. So what you can do is you can bind now on this template. On this template, you can bind value for any one of these placeholder. Actually, you have to bind value for all those placeholders. Okay. That is, I want to bind value for this placeholder first, roll number. Okay, and this is the name of the placeholder, and this is the value there. Value is that CSB 21, say 21. Okay, then roll number 10, CSB 21010. That is the bound, that placeholder is bounded with this value now. Okay, and then the another one is this, another one is this values, and then this placeholder I want to bind with, see, bind value. I'm binding this particular value. I want to bind this particular value in this template with this placeholder. Okay, then what is the value? T name, then you have to specify a name there. So for example, Ashok Das, Ashok Das. Okay. And then this one, password again, admin 123. I do not know why I'm writing it same password again and again, but okay, no problem, right? And then at the end, after binding, you can actually execute the command, template arrow execute. There is a function, yes, see, execute. Now see here, see the difference. These execute function I was calling on an object of type PDO. Okay, now this connection is an object of type PDO. However, this template is an object of type C, PDO statement. Okay, like this template is an object of type PDO statement, whereas this connection is an object of type PDO. Different types of object. Okay, so on this object I'm calling this, see, and from where that object, see here, this PDO object, from where it is coming, this connection object is, as I said, no, it is a PDO object. And from where it was coming, because we created explicitly an instance of this PDO class. However, this template, it is shown that it is an instance of PDO statement. However, see, we never actually explicitly created this instance, right? From where it was coming, it was actually the return value of this prepare function, which we called using these PDO objects. See here, this function has a return value. Somewhere it should be, see here, here these array holds one or more key value pairs to set the attribute values for the PDO statement objects. What am I saying? Oh, no, here, this prepare function. Prepare function, see there, where is the return statement? Yes, see here, and returns a statement object, PDO statement object. Okay, so it returns a PDO statement object, and then on that statement object, these vine values. These are two different types of object. That is my main point here. Okay, like template is this particular variable is of type PDO statement, and this particular variable connection is of type PDO. And this execution function is a member of this PDO class, where this bind value function is a member of that PDO statement class. Okay, If you practice, you will come to know, like, but sometimes what will happen is that you might actually try to call this bind value function on this connection object, and that time you will get into trouble. So okay, anyhow, suppose what we are doing is that this is a normal string. Now on that string we are creating, actually say connection dot prepare will create a statement object, PDO statement object. Okay, so we are creating a statement object from this string, and that statement object we are calling here in this program as template, and then that that statement object is actually, it has some, it's a template, it has some placeholder. Okay, and those placeholders we are filling, and what are the name of those placeholders? Like three placeholders: roll number, name, and password. And we are just assigning some values there, we're binding some values, actual values there with these placeholders, and then we are executing. Let's first execute these and see whether these row gets inserted there or not. Okay, and then we'll proceed. Here is your SQL table right now. If you execute, you will see that the Ashok Kumar is not here, right? And now let's execute now this DB1, and it is not showing you any error for the time being. And let's now again go back to your database, execute this, and see this Ashok Das is there. It is inserted, right? And then what is the advantage is that, let's say for example, we want to insert roll number 11, and that is, say for example, Munmun Das. Okay, and the password is admin123. That's one. Now suppose this, we want to execute another insert statement. Okay, then what you have to do is, you do not have to actually see it will minimize a lots of things. Now it will make sense now. See, these thing we can do in this way. With a different set of value, we want to execute the same command. Basically, we want to execute on this connection, we want to execute the same command actually. Okay, but only thing is that with different set of values, then we want to execute the same command with different set of values. And that is what it was mentioned there in this side here. The query needs to be parsed once, but can be executed multiple times with same or different parameters. Okay, and that is, when the query is prepared, the database will analyze, compile, and optimize its plan for executing the query. For example, for complex queries, this process can take up enough time that will noticeably slow down the application. If there is a need to repeat the same query many times with different parameters. By using a prepared statement, the application avoids repeating the analyze, compile, and optimize cycle. Okay, and this means that prepared statements use fewer resources and thus run faster. Okay, see, same command actually you can execute with different set of values there. And that certainly, and according to that paragraph, that optimizes your code. I mean, that increases the speed of execution. Now let's try. It will insert roll number 11, it will insert roll number 12, and it will insert roll number 13. Say roll number 11 is Munmundas, roll number 12 is, say, Gungundas, and roll number 13 is, say, Mahalakshmi, say, Upadhyay. It's spelling or not. Anyhow, let's all these three rows will be now inserted. Right now, those three rows are not there in the database. If you want, you can check here. Here, those three rows are not there. Right now, I'll execute them, and after execution, they should be there. Here, I'm executing it, and after execution, again, I'm re-executing. So those three rows are inserted. Munmun, Gungun, Mahalakshmi. Done. Right, this is one way of binding values to placeholders and then executing. Let me show you another one. Okay, so we'll be using actually all these different ways of doing the thing based on our need when we actually use them, when we actually try to solve some real problem. Okay, in while developing the application. See, I want you people to actually play around with this thing and try to do these things by yourself so that you get some, see, always you can do, what you can do is you can copy paste and you can get the work done, but and at the same time you can have some understanding also, like what is happening actually inside there. You can dig into the matter, and you know sometimes without the help of internet also you should be able to do some coding. That is my main point. Now let's try some other way, more or less the same way, but another way of binding values to placeholders. I'll show you here. Another two ways I use sometimes use now like sometimes now I prefer different ways at different situations. Okay, so that's why I'm showing you the other two ways also. Okay, so another way is that what you can do is using this one is that using this bind value function. Another option is that is called as a bind parameter option. Okay, let's do it now. Okay, now, like I'll be writing the code inside this try cats block. I'm copying it and I'm pasting it here, but from this point onwards I'll delete them. Okay, say for example, this is the default one. What we're doing is see, insert into student details, roll number, this. So we are creating basically this prepare statement will create a placeholder like template. This template is created. Now the next goal is that we have to bind some actual value with the templates. Now what you can do is instead of binding directly the values, what you can do is actually you can bind some variable names with these placeholders. Okay, that is what $template arrow bind these parameter function, bind parameter function you can use. Okay, it's same as bind value. Only thing is that here what you have to do is you have to write certainly the name of the placeholder here what with which you want to bind the parameter, and then here what you can do is instead of giving here the actual value you can actually specify here a variable name. Okay, and here I'm calling it say roll number, and I'm just to make sure that they do not need to be always the same, so I'm writing here this letter V. It means what am I doing is that with this placeholder roll number, I'm binding this variable roll number. Okay, and we'll make use of that variable later on. But I want to do another two bindings. Let me copy and paste, and then this placeholder this placeholder, this name should be same. These names should match with these placeholder names. Okay, so roll number, t name, and then this one is third one is say for example password, and then I'm calling it say v name, just to show you that this name could be, this variable name can be anything you want, and then I'm calling it say anything, as I said, no anything I want, let me call it anything I want. Okay, I'm calling it say ABC. It means what? These place, oh, you have to write the colon in front of it. It's part of the syntax. Now, this roll number placeholder is now bound with this variable. This is bound with this variable, and this placeholder is bound with this variable. And then what I can do is I can give now some actual value to this variable. Okay, let's say dollar $v roll number is equal to something, and dollar $v name equal to something, and dollar ABC equal to something. Okay, and actually fill them up. Roll number is up to what? CSB. Okay, let's start with the CSM series. CSM 210, roll number 10. The name is say Ramanujan Mahapatra, and then what is that ABC represents? Password is say admin 123. And then once we are storing some actual values there, then we can call this, and on this template you can call this execute function. Done. And suppose now we want to insert a different row there. Okay, then what we have to do is we do not have to do this binding again. We just have to change the value of these variables, and then you can execute. Okay, let me show you. Like say I want to insert another row, so I'll be doing it in this way. I just have to change the value of these variables because these variables are already bounded with these placeholders. So if I change the value of these variables, then that's enough actually. Okay, so v roll number, suppose now it is roll number 11 from CSM series, and then the roll number, actual roll number, say for example the actual roll number. Okay, say whom should I, okay, say that famous actor. What's his name? That what? That Sherlock Holmes. Okay, Sherlock. Let's write it. And the password is this. Another one, roll number 11, and then roll number 12. Now, instead of Sherlock Holmes, what we want there is the name of the actor, the famous actor who played the role, that Sherlock Holmes character in that series, Sherlock Holmes. Okay, and his name was Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm not sure what's the name, what's the spelling. Cumberbatch. Most need this one. And then that is roll number 11. That I want to be the roll number 12. Yes, right. And let's see whether it works or not. But right now, both these Sherlock and Benedict are not there in my database, and then I am executing this script. After execution, Benedict and Sherlock both should be there. Yeah, they're there. Like Sherlock is also there, Benedict is also there. Great, done. And now that is another. And let me show you another. See here, basically, if you see, bind value. I mean, this has some advantage, right? I mean, bind parameters are like more. They're shorter. You have to write less code there, because see, if you want to insert 3 rows, then you have to call, actually using bind values, you have to call bind value for each row. You have to call bind value. I mean, every time you have to fill those placeholders with values by calling this bind value. But if you use bind parameter, then filling the placeholders are just like some assignment statement. Like, once you bind this placeholder with a variable, then the rest, when you actually execute the command, the only thing that you have to do is you have to like do some assignment operation to change the value of those variables, and then you can call execute function, right? And at least in terms of typing, this is a bit easier than the first one. And I'm just even going to show you another one which is like very easy. I mean, very short. I mean, you know less coding, and you have to do less amount of typing. I do not know for how long I have been speaking. Anyhow, let's try these now. Let's try, and then this the same thing up to this, up to the point of creating the template. Everything is same. What we're doing here is, this is the, like, this is the string version of the command, and here by writing this particular instruction, we're creating the template. See here, I just wrote the try, I didn't write the gets there. Your exception, PDO exception, give a name to the exception object that you are going to get there. This thing. If you're not very sure like what this try and catch, it's a simple concept with that comes with any object-oriented programming language. This try and catch, you can have a read. I mean, you can do it. Like you can read the C++ book about exception handling if you already familiar with C++. But if you're not, then directly you can read exception handling in PHP. That also, if you do not want to do, then what you can do is you can write it in the comment section. So I need some explanation. We need some explanation on exception handling in PHP. Then I might come up with an extra video. Anyhow, this video is going longer, and then I'm telling you some other stuff. What I'm thinking of is actually that I'm thinking of, like, you know, making a cup of tea and have a cup of tea, but I cannot do that right now because I want to finish this video first. Okay, let's finish it. So what am I doing here is that I'm creating this placeholder, I mean this template, and then I want to give some actual value. Actually, I want to execute the command with some actual value, and that I can do with the help of an associative array. Let's see how easy it is actually. See, dollar template is this template that we just have created by using this prepare function, and arrow, we are calling the same function, execute function. But the thing is here, what we're going to do is we're going to create an associative array, and there we are going to, associative array, you remember name value pair, where see here we are going to create three name value pairs, and where the names will be the names of the placeholder and the values will be the actual values that we want to put against this placeholder. Let me see. First, see what is the syntax of creating an associative array. That is within double quotation name, arrow, the value, comma, comma. This associative array you have created in the last video also. Name, arrow, and the value, comma, name, arrow, the value. See, PHP syntax is certainly a bit awkward, no? Like these arrow. I mean, they could have used something else also. Arrow, and there this arrow, you see this arrow, and this dollar symbol writing in front of each variable. Yeah, but anyhow, it's a very nice language actually, nice programming. I find it very interesting. I mean, I love this PHP language. Dollar arrow, and then as I said, no, what you have to do is you have to create name value pair for each of these placeholder. What is the first placeholder? Dollar roll, this colon roll number. This colon is a part of syntax, okay, so you have to write it as it is there. Then colon roll number arrow, what is the actual value you want, you can write here. Say for example, after CSM series, say I select another, say series SWS, say for example, within double quotation, because that is a string. I want SWS 21001, and this is colon t name. What we have to write here is, see, that name should be the name of the placeholder, and that's what T is the name of the placeholder, entire thing, and then the actual name, say for example I want Swati Mishra, and then the password, that colon password, password is say admin 123 or something. You have created an associative array and done in a single go. I mean, see, at least you are saving a lots of space there, right? This first approach also takes a lots of typing, second one is also taking lots of typing, and the third one is very efficient in terms of at least typing. Even you can make it shorter. Suppose the second row, you see the second row, pasting it here, and then instead of writing this array, an associative array, this is one way of creating an associative array. There is a shorthand notation of creating an associative array. You just can write this square bracket, done. The PHP will understand. Okay, now that you actually the programmer is interested in creating an associative array. Let's try with this arrow, with this roll number 2 of SWS series, and then the name of that person. Suppose I want not to be okay, let's say I'm writing the name of one of my old friend, and he was a friend of mine when I was in my engineering. His name was what? Sahil Balgotra. And then password is this. Anyone who knows Sahil Balgotra, if you know him personally, you can let me know it in the comment section. Okay, he was a friend of mine long back. I have not met him once I completed my what degree? BTech engineering degree. You might be thinking, sir, why do not you search it in Facebook? I'm not there in Facebook, but again, I believe on coincidence, so I'll be very surprised if somebody writes it in the comment section and say, I know Sahil personally, he is my uncle, or he is my someone whom I know personally. And that's less chance, right? 1 out of million, I'm just assuming. But anyhow, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. Okay, anyhow, let's say whether these two person gets inserted in our database table or not. Here, right now, they are not there, right? The last two were Benedict and Charlotte. And after we execute this, we are done. Sahil is there and Swati is also there. Okay, great. Done. Now, these are different ways of executing a command. So you might be thinking, now, sir, whatever the commands you are showing it only with this insert command. Yeah, it's true, but you can execute actually any command you want. Okay, now we are we still have to go a long way. So we are now, let's do it. Now, why did I started with this insert command? You see, insert command, it doesn't return you any value, right? Like when you are actually executing an insert command, like insert into some table and table, only thing it says you that okay, one row is inserted. But when you write select command, basically what does it do is it returns you the result also. So at the same time, you need to know how to process the result, right? How to retrieve the result. So some extra part is needed. So now that is what I'm going to explain right now. Now see, suppose the command, instead of inserting a command, we now are interested in retrieving data from the database table. How do you do that? Okay, execute up to the point of the execution of the command, everything is same. Only thing, the extra thing that we will be needing to know is that like how to interpret the result that you get back from the execution of a command. Okay, that's what we're going to see now. So let's I'll be following which approach, maybe this approach. Okay, let's now try to retrieve what are the data there in this particular table, student details. Okay, I'll be selecting this command and I'll be pasting it, and I'll do some change there. Okay, like I do not need them actually. I just wanted to, I copied just to copy this try and catch, and then this command. Basically, I'll start from here. You can start from here. Okay, try catch. Inside that, I'm going to write the actual command. What is the command that I want to execute is select select star from student details. Where clause I'll not write for the time being. I'll simply write select star from student details. That's all. Then the next thing is that we have to create a template. So you may be thinking, sir, why do I need a template here? Because there is no like sort of placeholder we do not need, right? I mean, nothing, no input I have to specify. Yeah, that's true, but I'm following the general way of doing the thing. Everything I'll be doing in the same way. Okay. So for that reason, what am I doing is I'm creating a template or a statement where how you can get a statement by writing like on the connection object. See, this connection object is coming from the beginning. I mean, it is like you know from the Big Bang, sort of. It's still like we created that thing at the beginning. Okay, like this connection object, the same connection object we are making use of right now. So on that connection, on that template is equal to on that connection object, we want to prepare a statement. I mean, why do we use the prepare function? Just to create a template or a template or a statement object, right? Prepare, and then there we want to pass this command string. I mean, this is the command on for which we want to prepare the template, and done. Now that's done. Then okay, then what? The next thing is that we are ready to execute that statement. That is template arrow execute. You might be thinking, sorry, you didn't bind anything with this because we didn't create any placeholder, so there is no point of binding anything, and there is no point of passing anything here, right? Nothing is no array is to be passed there. Okay, you can write it in this way because no placeholders. That is quite logical. So template arrow execute. Okay, it will execute the command. Now, if we execute these particular uh, you know PHP file, is it going to show us something? Nothing, right? It means we need to do something else to actually see. Whenever you are executing a select start from or select command, whenever you are executing a select command on a database, then what happens is that it usually returns you a table. If the table is not empty, it will return you the table, right? Now, how to know like okay, let's see like how many rows are returned. How do you know that? For that, there are some inbuilt functions. We'll be making use of those inbuilt functions. There are only a few that you need to remember, and that you can use. That will solve most of your problems. Okay. So like template arrow execute, that gives you something. No, I mean done. Your template is executed. Now let's see after the execution how many rows that particular command returned you. So to know that thing, what you can do is you can make use of a function. Like after execution, you can ask that template, what is your row count? Template arrow row count. What is your row count? Row count is a function that returns. See, yeah, returns the number of rows affected by the last SQL statement. Okay, now how many rows are returned by this select statement? Suppose that information we want to display on the screen. Okay, so for that, what you can do is, like if you want to display something in PHP, you can, one function is that you can make use of this echo function, echo, and you display that thing on the screen. So that's an echo, and you write outside. Right now, if you see in your database, in this SQL database, if you see, you'll see that there are like 13 rows. So if I execute this PHP script now, or PHP page now, I should see that 13 somewhere, and that 13 is coming here. Okay, what I want to do is that before that 13, I want to give a new line. So what I'll be doing is I'll concatenate these break tag. So, I mean, that break will be interpreted by the web browser as a new line. So it will not be displayed as it is, okay? As like, it will be interpreted actually by the browser as a new line. So as a result, that 13 should come in a new line. Now it's coming in a new line, right? That 13 rows are there. And the question is that, okay, I know that there are 13 rows, and that's good to know. But still, I mean, can I see all the 13 rows? That's a question. So how do you do that is quite a common question actually. And then how do you do that? And to do that thing, again, you have to make use of some inbuilt function there in PHP. And for that, what you need to do is right. What you do is uh, okay, again, you have to like ask this on this template object, because see, this is the template object on which you executed the command, and on this template object itself you are executing this row count command to know how many rows are affected or how many rows are actually retrieved. And then if you want to really fetch those row, I mean really get those affected rows, then what you can do is template arrow, there is a function fetch all the rows, there. Sorry, fetch all. You have to use this fetch all function, to return an array consisting of all values of a single column from the result set property. Fetch. Oh no, if you want to only interested in a particular column, then you can use this fetch column. Did I select that fetch column? No, actually here what I am to do is I'm not interested on a specific column. I want to retrieve the entire table, all the selected columns. Okay, so for that reason you have to specify one constant here like this, and that is fetch associative. What does it do is it will return you the selected rows in the form of an associative array. Okay, already you know what is an associative array. An associative array is a name value pair, like name against that value, name against that value, name against that value. So if there are like say 13 rows, then what will happen is basically it will return you an array of arrays, where each array will be like one row. Each row will be returned as an associative array. The next one will also be returned as an associative array, like that. So template array fetch all PDO fetch associative, and then that will return you a, as soon as you write here fetch associative, it will return you an array, and that array, suppose I'm storing it in a return value. Okay, and then in PHP there is a function. If you want to print an array there in PHP, what you can do is you can use print underscore r function, or you can use dump underscore variable function. Yeah, both of them will work fine. So print r, say dollar return value. Print r function is actually used to print an array in PHP. So what this function is doing is, see, this will execute this particular command, and then this row count function tells you like how many rows are returned or affected, and then this fetch all. These three always you will be using, I mean, in combination, and that will you'll be able to do most of your things using, if you know only these three functions. Okay, and this printer function, like for the time being I'm using like just to show you the output on the screen, but in real, like, we'll be hardly using it, because our task will be like not to develop the user interface. We will forward after retrieving this information from the server, I mean after executing the command, whatever the result that we get, ultimately we will forward this result back to some user interface. Okay, and we'll be displaying it using some HTML element or something. So but anyhow, if you want to see the output on the like in a very primitive way, then you can make use of this printer function. Printer function, basically what does it do? It displays you the content of an array. If you like, if you have an array and you want to see what is the content of that particular array, then you can make use of this print function. Let's see now. Main point of concern here, or main point of interest here, is that, like, see, up to this point, prepare, you know what is the use of this prepare statement? It creates a template, right? And then the next statement, next thing that you have to do is you have to, you know, you have to actually, if you have any placeholders, then you have to bind those placeholders with actual values, and then you have to execute the command. But since we do not have any placeholders here in this command, we are directly executing the command. And then if you want to retrieve the results returned by returned by the execution of this execution of any command, then what we can do is you can make use of this fetch all function, and then inside that we can specify this constant as input, like PDO fetch all associative. It means return the result in terms of an associative array. If you know up to this much, then we are ready to actually do most of the things uh, that we might encounter to develop an application. Okay, template this done. Let's execute this and see what is the output now. Oh, a lot of things are coming now. What is this? I mean, see, 13 is this 13. Up to 13 also, after printing 13 also, let me put a break, I mean, what is that, new line, I mean, line break there. And then these array content will be displayed in a different line, right? Now see, it is, see here, an associative array, as I said, no, array number 0, something array. I mean, see, this is array number 0. Array number 0, see, the entire thing is an array. So from here to here, this entire thing is an array. Try to interpret this output actually. Although it looks messy, but if you can interpret this output, then you know you are on the safe side. I mean, you'll be able to make sense out of things. Now see, this entire thing is an array starting from here to here. Okay, and this is the zeroth element of the array. Zero implies, okay. Now the zeroth element is a what? It is another array, and from where to where it is going? See, id, roll number. See here, id implies 1, roll number implies this. See here, you know, these are the column names. See, id implies 1, roll number implies that, name implies Prakash, password implies abc 1 2 3, and this is the closing bracket, and this closing bracket is associated with this closing bracket. Now see, this is one single array, and that one single array is implied by these zeroth element, okay, of this external array. Okay, now see, it's an array of arrays. There are multiple arrays. Now see, the first element is again another array. First one implies array. Now you see, this is the second row of the table. Array id is 2, roll number is this, name is Akshay, password is abc123. This is the end of the second row, and this is the end of the second element of the array. Now this is the third element. Like, the third element implies this is another array. So now see, that's why I said this is an array of arrays. And what this print function is doing, it is displaying you the content of an array. So okay, let's do it. Say for example, I write here echo. I write here echo, and then I write there a line break again. And then I create an associative array. Okay, and let's say this is the associative array. Instead of writing it again, I'm just putting it here, and I'm storing it. Actually, I'm storing it in a variable. So temporary variable is equal to this array. Okay, done. And then I print it. Sorry. This semicolon is the problem. So I put the semicolon. Temporary variable is this some key and value, key and value, key and value. And then what I do is I call this function print r underscore r, and then I pass this dollar temporary variable. How it will be? See, it's just an array. This is just an array. It's not an array of array. This one is see, as you know, like, see, since we are executing an SQL command, so return value you can expect, like, you know, to be a table. isn't it? Although it might contain only one row, although it might contain only one row, one column, but then also that's a table. Table means what? Some some rows will be there, some columns will be there. Maybe that number of rows and number of columns might be only one and one, but then also some rows, some columns. So each row is an array. If you consider, then the entire thing will become an array of array. Think for a moment, it should make sense. And again, from this output also, you already have seen that actually each row of the table is actually represented by an array element. Okay, now why am I writing this another one? Like just to show you, like if this is your array, if this is your array, and using printer function, if you print the content of the array, how will it look like? Let's see. Then you'll be able to make sense. Now see, this looks something like array open and close, and inside that this is the content of the array. See here, array open and close, and from here to here is the content of the array. Now what is happening? Roll number implies that is, this is the first element of the array, right? I mean, in my array, in this array, you see, this is the first element of the array, comma. This is the second element of the array, comma. This is the third element of the array. The same thing is displayed here. Like this is my first element of the array, comma. This is my second element, this one, and the third element of the array. Same thing is happening here also. See, this is my first element of the array, second element of the array. Only thing is that my keys are like numbers here. 0 implies that, that implies that, that implies that. Now I can create an array of array also, like tv is equal to this, but I want to create an array of arrays. Okay, this is my first element and this is my second element. Second element, say, do I have an associative array somewhere? This associative array I just take. No. Oh yeah, I can take, right? No problem. This is another associative array I have. So I'm taking this one as an array. Here I'm putting it. Roll number implies this, name implies that, password implies that. This is, sorry, that is my another array. And sorry, what is happening? This is my first array and this is my second array, and both these first array and second array are there in my outer array. See, I have, like, see, this is an array, and inside that this is my first array, and inside that this is my second array, and the first element of the array, second element of this outer array. And let's now print it using this printer function. How it looks like? It should look like more or less similar, more or less same as this one. Actually, let's execute. Now see, 0th element is an array up to this point, and the first element is another array up to this point, right? Think for a moment, certainly it will make sense. And then again, you try to write some code by yourself, experimental code, to concretize your idea. Now you know, right? I mean, up to this point, now you know how to how to connect with the database. What are the things that we learned actually? How to connect with the database, how to execute a command in a database, and different ways I showed you. And now if that command returns some result, how to retrieve the result. Okay, those things we show. And say, for example, now see, suppose we are interested in, we want to execute a command that needs some input also, I mean some parameters also, right? I mean, this command select star from student detail. Suppose there is a where clause there. How will you do that? Okay, let's do that now. Okay, so what I'll do is say up to, so now this part I copy. I'm copying this entire block, and I'll first erase rest of the thing here. At least the minimum things I'll keep. Okay, now select star from student details. Suppose we are interested in all the students of let's see, what are the different types of students there. Some CSB, some CSM, some SWS, and all. Suppose we are interested in all the CSM students. Okay, so how do you know? Like select star from student details, where roll number, like all the CSM students, right? The first roll number like, now we can directly write like here in this way, where the roll number like within single quotation CSM, and then anything we can write it in this way, and then the command can be executed. Template prepare statement, and then that dollar return value is equal to dollar template, then fetch all, sorry, yeah, right, fetch all, and then PDO colon associative array I want, and then I'm displaying. I'm interested in like print underscore r function, or I want to show you a different function here, variable dump. Same thing it will do more or less, and dollar return function this done, right? Yeah. Any mistake did I do? Select star from student details where roll number like this, template is this. I'm executing this command. I'm displaying this way. Okay, right. This particular thing will display you the output in only the CSM students. Okay, so what I want is I want otherwise it will display everything on the same line. Put two breaks there. I mean line break there. Okay, and then let's see whether what output does it show. This last one is showing that array 0, no students. For some reason it is not showing anything. Oh, I didn't execute the command. See, that's a mistake I did actually. See, after preparing, command is there, template is, I prepared the command, and then I have execute the command, right? Template. Why template? Yeah, template. Yes, right. Template, and then execute the command. Okay, yeah, right. What my point was that I just wanted to show you that if this SQL command needs some variable, I mean some input, I mean some parameters, then how we can do that. Okay, the one way of doing the thing is this. This is a typical way of doing the thing. The command template execute and this, and then variable. Then it should show you those 4 or 5 rows with CSM. 4 rows are written, see, 4 rows are written, and all of them is roll number, all these rows are having the roll number like CSM21. Okay, then fine, that's okay, good. Now the thing is that suppose now these, instead of writing like directly, instead of writing the value here, suppose we want to create, because we are ultimately we are using this prepare command, right? Prepare function we are executing, right? I mean we have to create some placeholders there. So suppose we want to create a placeholder there. Okay, so what I can do is this command like what you can do is you can write there a placeholder name. Say for example, command like say you just write a placeholder roll number. It's just a placeholder, it's not the actual value. But when you template connection prepare, you're creating now a template. Now when you want to execute the actual command this time, since there is a placeholder there, you have to actually specify the value of this placeholder. And how you can specify the value of the placeholder? By in any way, either you can use bind value, or you can use bind parameter, or you can use an associative array. So I'll be selecting the third option, associative array. So roll number, I want to bind, I want to pass here an associative array where the key is the name of the parameter, I mean name of the placeholder, roll number, yeah, and the value of that parameter I want to be, well, I want the value of like what I want, that first 3 characters should be CSM, and after that it can be basically anything CSM this, and it should give me exactly the same output that I got in my previous execution. So basically it's not a change. I mean I got this output, right? And say suppose just for the sake of an example, let me run this thing and see, can I select something else there? Okay, let's say uh, what I want. ABC 1 2 3 Gautam Sherlock Holmes, and 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, let's retrieve all the, no, that will be, Okay, anything actually. I just wanted to, let's say instead of this CSM, now say I want to retrieve a different, pattern actually. So say all the names which whose first name has 5 characters. Okay, say uh, how do we do that? One, two, three, four, five underscores, and then I want a space. Then I want the rest of the things can be anything. Okay. So let's see how many names are there of this pattern. That is, the first name contains first 5 characters and then space and then anything. Okay, let's execute this command and see what is the return value of this command. Nothing. Okay, is it nothing? 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1. All of them are no 5. That's surprising. 1 2 3 4 5. This is 5, right? 1 2 3 4 5. That should come. 1 2 3 4 5. Roll. Oh, sorry. I mean, that's okay, fine. But the thing is that 1 2 3 4 5. But this is not roll number, right? This is not roll number actually. Where roll number, like I have written it right there, but it is actually name like. So, and then let's see whether it returns me the output as expected. Okay, is it so? Name is what? Oh, so 5, yeah. And what is the name? Swati Mr. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5. Okay. And I just am interested in selecting only, not the star, only the name. That will help me. Ashok and Swati and Sahil. How many? Three. Three names are there where the first name contains 5 characters. Okay, great. So this is how actually even if that select command is asking you to specify some input there, you can create placeholders. You can use prepare command, a prepare function to create template, and then you can re-execute the template. Like see, suppose this one will return you all the names or all the all the names where this condition is met actually, where name like this. Okay, now if you want to change this condition, then you can change the condition here with you know in the next execution. But anyhow, I think people got the idea now, like the basics, like what are the things that we learned, like how to connect to the database, how to execute instruction or SQL command in the database, how to handle or how to retrieve information, or how to retrieve the returned retrieve the result returned by an SQL command, returned by the execution of an SQL command, right? So these are the basic things, and these are the most important things you need to know. If you know these three things, like you know how to connect, you know how to execute any SQL instruction, and you know how to receive the result of the execution of any SQL command. So that's all that you need to know to do to do most of the things. Certainly there are some other things also, right? I mean, like how do you implement the concept of rollback? I mean, how do you commit, how do you start a transaction? Those things are there certainly, but just to start with, these things are enough, and we'll be like in this application we'll not go into those stuff there, like how to implement I mean, how to use transaction, rollback, commit, and all. Those are not difficult concepts, but again, you need to know a few more extra functions. That's all. But since this is, I'm just assuming like this is the first video regarding this DBM database part. So let's stop here itself and let's try to make these things, whatever we just learned, these basic concepts, let's try to put this thing into use actually. As I said, no, a programmer is someone who not only have the toolbox, but also at the same time, he or she knows very well how to make use of the tools that he or she has. You might have lots of hi-fi tools with you, but if you do not have proper experience, then there is no use of those tools there. Okay, but suppose you might have a very traditional set of toolbox, but you are like quite, you have spent a lots of time using them in different situations. Then with these simple tools also you will be able to create magnificent you know magnificent things output. I mean, you know, these Ellora and Ajanta caves there. I mean, have you seen them ever? I can show you here. See here, how from simple things you can make very complicated things, right? Ellora and Ajanta caves. These are magnificent structures. See here, but they are not. They are to build those structures. But they didn't have those. At least we can assume that since they were built like in 500 BCs or something. I'm not sure. Not that good at history, but still, I think they're like 400 to 650 CE, 480 CE. See, long back, second century BCE. You know, so those were like 2,500 years back at least. Am I right? Here an official number is one. So whatever, yeah. So so those days, to build such an like such caves are like to we can just only assume that they didn't have those very hi-fi technology to build these caves. But nowadays also, if you see those structure, you will be amazed, like how did they manage to do that thing. Not only these, there are other things also, like say for example the pyramids and all. We still are confused, like how on earth did they build that actually. No signs of having any hi-fi technology, but still they managed to do that thing. The same thing with the programmer also. I mean, you might know a lots of one might know a lots of very hi-fi techniques and all this, but the thing is that ultimately everything will boil down to how experience or how much time actually you spend in using those tools that you have, that one is claiming to know actually. Okay, and that's the main thing. And creativity is in one's imagination. Like creativity means that thing should come from inside. That is one part. A programmer, I think, at least in my point of view, what I think is that a programmer, always he or she need to be a creative person, because we always create things, right? We create application, we create things actually. And that creativity usually comes from inside. And then these tools that you have, that's just to support your creativity, to express your creativity. So do not you worry like how, nowadays different programming languages, different architecture, different things and all. If you are good in one or two, then you will be able to cover most of the things. You will be able to expand very easily actually. Okay, so that's sort of something that I wanted to tell you. You might not agree with me, no problem with that also. But I think, I mean, these things always like surprises me actually. Like how did they build these things? At least with that part you might agree, right? But anyhow, let's move forward. Again, the video is not yet end. I still have to do a lots of things. I just told you the first, as I said no in the beginning of the video, that I'll be doing it in two halves. The first part and the second part. I guess the first part is more or less over, but still a lots of things are there. Okay, let's now do let's now move forward. Okay, now you see what is happening here is that like so now in this app, like here, whatever we're doing in this case here we are writing, say we created a connection, and on that connection we executed actually many different commands, SQL commands, right? Now what happens is that in an application you might have different pages, isn't it? Like say let me close it, close it. This application that already built in my this thing, this application has different pages, right? Like said, this is one page and this is another page, this is another page. This is a time consuming page actually. it internally does a lots of operations. I mean, it needs to compute a lots of things. But anyhow, this is one page. This is different operations you want to do, and this is another page and all. You click here, other things and all. Why am I showing you all these? Because you see different pages are there. In most of these different pages, what you need is you need to create some database connection. So for example, here you need to create a database connection. If you go to this page, you enter a roll number there, you click on go, you have to create another database connection to display this message that student is not found. Ultimately, it has to go to the database, it has to check that this particular student is there or not, and then it has to come back with the result, right? So it has to make a database connection. So different phases it has to make the database connection. So if all your code is there in a single page, and then that's fine. I mean, you have to write this part, that creating the database connection, you have to write only once. This is the code that is responsible for creating the database connection, right? And rest of the part, like from here, see, on these first 14 lines are like for creating the connection, and rest of these from line number 16 to line number 135, all of them are like executing some command on that particular connection which you created on line number 18, isn't it? Now suppose you have like 100 different pages, then what we have to do is, and in all those 100 different pages you need some SQL connection, you need some some database connection. Then what you have to do is, in all those 100 pages, one approach is that in all those 100 pages you write these 14 lines. That is one way. And another way is that what you can do, obviously, as a good programmer, what you can do is you can make use of the concept of code reuse. It means what? It means what? You store this code in a single place, and then you somehow connect now the rest of the pages with that part of the code. Okay, and that's what we're going to see right now, like how we can reuse the code, or how we can actually do code reuse in PHP. So for that reason, now we are actually doing something which will be useful in our project also, okay, in our main project also. So for that reason, what am I going to do is, I am going to create a folder here in this DB handler, code, in this DB handler folder. I am going to create a file called, and I'm calling it, say, for example, database connection, CONNECTION, and I want to make sure that this is a PHP file, so I'm writing it in this way, database connection.php. And this PHP file is created. Now, what do we want here? I want this thing to be a PHP file, so I can write here PHP tag and all this. But what I want here is that I want here this part of the code. This part of the code, I want to copy from here, and I want to paste it here. And I want to terminate the PHP tag here. But not only these, as I said, I said, like, I'll be using some object-oriented concept here. So what I want to do is, just to maintain my code more easily, I'm just going to create a class here, PHP class. Do not you worry, things are very simple. It's just that, the class notation, the classes and objects that you know in C++, Java, or CS, or in any programming language, if you know it already, then that's the same thing I'm going to do here. Or if you do not know, in that case, then also you do not worry. I mean, even if you are seeing it for the first time, things will make sense, okay? And then also, if you need further support, like again, as I said, you can let me know it in the comment section, sir. I need more explanation on this class concept. Can you create another video on class and objects in PHP? Certainly, I'd like to do that, if at least a certain amount, number of students request, or certain number of people request that. Okay, great. Now let's what am I doing? I'm creating a class. Okay, class. So you just write here the keyword class, and then you give a name to the class. You can give any name, but I'm calling it, say, database connection, database CONNECTION. CTION. This connection. So coincidentally, this is just a coincidence that the name of this class is same as the name of the file. Okay, don't worry. Can be, or it may not be. It may be, or it may not be. That's not a point here. Okay. Done. Now see, you are seeing some red marks. As I said in my some of my video that I mean, and when this thing comes, it creates some sort of, you know, what it like it makes you feel like, oh no, 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 I just want to take a break, something like this, right? No, no, that's not the case. What you can do is, why this thing is coming is that you should, if you know the reason, then there is no point of worrying about these red marks there. Okay, okay, let's jokes apart. Now the thing is that this is a class I'm writing here, and this why this thing is coming is that, like in PHP class, you always have to specify the access specifier, whether it is private member or public member. I have to write here, like, this is, I want this thing to be a private member, so this is a private member, like private variable, and whose value is this. I just will paste that thing everywhere. And along with this, I what I'm going to do is, actually I'm going to create a public member there, and that public member will be this connection, and by default that thing I want to be blank. And this connection, actually what I want to do is, okay, now that part is done, right? These connection, actually now see, in class, either you have data member or you have member function. You cannot write some code, like, that is nowhere. I mean, that is not part of a function, right? Inside class, if you're writing something, that should be part of that should be, like, the inside a function. So that's why these things are coming. Now, what you can do is that you can write a constructor first. Let's try to write a constructor. So it's like the public is the access specifier. Like constructor is a function. So in PHP, you write a function by writing this keyword function, and then underscore underscore construct. That is how you write a constructor in PHP. And then inside that constructor, write this part, Control X and then Control V, and done. That is the end of the constructor. That is the end of this class. But again, now so this connection object, I'm writing here this connection object, no, like as a public member. So here what you do is you just write this means this object. If you know C++, then that this of C++ is same as this of, in some sense it is same, right? Okay, this arrow connection is equal to PDO MySQL. Now, this why the red mark is here, because there is no variable whose name is server name inside this function. And even we do not want actually any variable whose name is server name inside this function. With this server name, we want to, to be this, private member of the class. This server name, which is a private member of this class database connection. And see, as I said, no, in PHP, if you want to access any member, no matter whether it is a member function or it is a data member, in PHP, if you want to access it, then using an object, then what you have to do is you have to make use of the arrow mark. And if you're accessing the, that member, no matter data member or member function, if you're accessing it from the same class, then by default that object name is your this object. Okay, so for that reason, what you're going to do is you have to write there, since I'm accessing it from the same class, that constructor is, inside the same class, certainly. And so this arrow, I mean this object arrow, not double arrow, I mean not double dash, this arrow server name. Now that problem is fixed. And then here also you have to write this arrow database name, and here also you have to write these arrow username, and here also you have to write these arrow password. Done. And now this connection is, again, like, it's not that that any local variable which is there inside that constructor function. It is actually the public member, this one which I have declared here. Okay, and that thing I have to write these arrow one. Why have I declared them as private, and why this one I have declared as public? You'll come to know just in a moment. Okay, but for the time being, just have some patience. Yeah. Oh, great. And rest of the things are same. So what did I do is, I basically, what I did is I simply, rewritten this code in the form of a class inside these separate PHP file. So basically what I did is I just created a class whose name is the database connection. I declared these members as private, but this one I made as public. Okay, because actually what I'll do is I'll make use of this class in many different places. Wherever I need a database connection, I'll be making use of this class. And then I'll be accessing this connection property from outside the class. I would like to access this connection property from outside the class, and that's the reason actually I declared this as public. You'll see it in a moment in use, then your things will make sense. Okay, and them I have declared as private because I'll never use them. I'll never try to access them from outside the class. Okay, done. Now this is how you can create a class in PHP, and these classes we'll be creating many different classes in the coming sessions or in the coming videos. So things are simple. We'll be creating only some member function data members, and we'll be creating some maybe some constructor and some extra functions, some public functions. Okay, it's just a way of organizing the code, nothing else. It makes your code more you know more maintainable. I mean, it's easy to maintain. You'll come to know, you'll realize that thing in fact in the at the end of this video itself. Okay, things will be very you know what maintaining the things becomes very easy when you take the help of these the concepts like object oriented programming and code reuse and all. Okay, done. Now this part is done. So we created this class database connection. Now how we can make use of this class? I mean, how on earth we are going to make use of this particular class? So let's see. So for that reason, what I'll do is I'll try to execute some of the commands from this particular file, but in a separate PHP file. Let's see. Okay, like hold on and see. I'm going to create, see here, these database connection PHP file I created inside this DB handler folder because these I want to be a part of my project. But now again, for explanation purpose, I'm again creating a file, I mean PHP file outside this scope of any of this folder. Okay, like I'm creating it here, so I'm calling it db2.php, and this is a blank file here. Okay, now what am I going to do is I'm going to make use of this db connection class here, and I'm going to execute some sql commands in this db2 file. How we are going to do that? Let's say first thing is that it is a php file, so I'll be writing it in this way. Okay, and then what I need actually is that I want to make use of this particular class, dbconnection.php. So for that reason I have to include that. See, do you remember that C programming, if you want to include any header file, what do? You write like has include standard input output dot h. That is how you include the header file in your program. That is just the notation, right? I mean, that is how you do the thing in C. But in PHP, if you want to do more or less the same thing, then what you'll be doing is you'll be calling this function require once. Okay, you'll be writing it in this require once, and then the name of the PHP file that you want to include with your project. With this particular PHP file. Okay, and then there you have to write like, okay, the name of the PHP file is with the full path you have to specify. It is there in our project. We were our project one, and then where db handler. It's not case sensitive, so you can write uppercase, lowercase, anything. HMDLER db handler, and there you have a file, this big name. I mean, I'll just copy it. I'm pasting it, something.php, that particular file. I'm just specifying the part of these particular PHP file, and that is how I'm trying to include that PHP file with my with this particular PHP file whose name is db2.php. And then let's see. Now what we want to do is we want to create a variable. We want to actually create an object of this particular class. Okay, then how do we create an object of that class? So let's call it, say, dbo, that is database object, is equal to, we know how to create an object. We already have seen it in this file, like new, using this keyword new, right? And then you write new and database connection. This is the name of the class. You have to write the name of the class here. So this is the class name, so you have to write the name of the class. dbo is equal to new connection. Done. It will create an instance of that particular class. Okay, now let's first try to execute this db2.php and see if there is any error, and I am expecting an error there. Okay, So you see, what I want to do is localhost. Here it's there, right? I mean, we close it, and then this one, this instead of writing db1, I'm writing the db2.php, and I press enter, and it is saying that some error is there. Require one something something this fail to open string. No such file or directory. C temp htdoc this in line number 3. Why this thing is coming? As I said, no, I was expecting that error. See, although I have written the part right, users do not need to read the part. Most probably I wrote it right. But the thing is that there is a sort of a mapping, actually, like, when on the server space, um, the server, actually, you can think it of like that way, that the root folder of your application, although it is like like we are seeing that it is our project one, but the root folder, like, the server actually maintains the root folder in a separate way. It does an internal mapping, actually. Okay, so for that reason, if you want to know, like, what is the root folder, like, of your current application, then you can do something like this. You can make use of that global variable server, and that is there. Actually, from there you need some information, actually. Okay, so just create a temporary variable, call it root. You can call it anything, but I'm calling it, say, root, or you can call it, say, okay, I'm calling it root part. Okay, root part, and is equal to dollar, and there is a global variable as your server, that is called as your server. Okay, inside that global variable there is a, you know particular key there, and that you can use there, and that is your stat. Oh, what's that? Server, and then what is that? Document root. No, why am I feeling like this is wrong? I don't know. Then that's like, sometimes I forget things. Now let's try whether this works or not. Okay, let's try. Now it's working fine. And from where this connected successfully is coming? I have not displayed anything. So what am I doing here is that error, why was it coming? Because there was a mapping, actually, like, although you have written this part right, but the thing is that the server maintains its own mapping of the directories that we, like, that in the file system. Inside the server, it sort of maintains its own mapping. You can think it that way. But anyhow, what you can do is, whenever inside the server you are specifying a path, that path, or, like, that part, you have to assume that the root directory of that, like, although, like, this is the name, or, like, no, in the file system, this is your starting point, but the thing is, inside your server, this is not the starting point. This folder inside your server is again, inside somewhere. And although, like, in your computer it is there in C colon, htdocs colon, C colon jam colon htdocs, but it's not actually there. I mean, the server actually maps that C colon jam colon htdocs to somewhere else. And if you want to know what is that somewhere else, then you have to retrieve it from this document.root. And then that thing we are actually concatenating. Like, this is the starting point. I mean, from here, like, something slash, then rest of the things, like this. So this is how actually you specify a path inside your PHP file. Okay, that is how you do the things usually there. Okay, and okay, done. Require once. Then ultimately what we're doing is that this is same as the main point here that you have to remember is that require once, what it is doing is that, why it is require once, you can actually write require also, but the thing is that sometimes by mistake we can write the same file we might try to include more than once. So if you want to make sure that no matter how many times you write, we include, we write, no, we try to include only once it should be included, then you can write require once. But the point here, again, the main point here is that, what is the, like, use of require once? What does this require once do? The thing is that it is same as hash include. Whatever it is, this hash include more or less doing in a C program, the same thing it is doing here. Like in PHP program, it is this recurrent ones is doing more or less. It is like connecting this piece of code with this PHP file, this file with this particular PHP file. Okay, and why we want to connect that this file with this file, because we want to make use of this particular class which is defined inside this file in this particular PHP file. Okay, and for that reason we're doing it. Now once that file is included with this particular PHP file, then what we can do is we can actually reuse the code which is there inside this database connection file. Okay, that way not only one file you can include as many files, external files, with any PHP file as you want. Okay, now inside this inside this database connection we have this class, so we can now refer to that particular class and we can create an instance of that class. Okay, now see from where that connected successfully is coming, because you see as soon as you create a class of as soon as you create an object of a class, then what happens is the constructor is executed. Now as soon as the constructor is executed, now see here inside in this class, for this particular class, how did I write my constructor? This is the constructor actually, and this is how you write the constructor in PHP. But the point is that but ultimately the concept of constructor is same. Also, although the syntax is different, but the concept is same. Concept is same means what? As soon as I create an instance of a class, the constructor will be called automatically. And what is written inside the constructor? It is written like try to make a connection with this credential, with this server. This is the name of the database and all this stuff. And then once the connection is made, you display connected successfully on the screen. And that's the result. That's why you are seeing this connected successfully on the screen. But when you use it actually to make the connection, it is not important that you display this echo connected successfully on the screen. And sometimes doing it actually might cause some problems. So for that reason, what we do is we just do not display anything there. We just silently want to create the connection. That's all. Yeah, for testing purpose, that was okay. Like it means what? It is working. This connected successfully message is coming on the screen. It means that it is working. It means from here, see which file we are getting, from where we are getting this output when we executed this db2.php. See this db2.php, only we have written this much of code. Like whenever we need, like suppose now we have another db3.php, there also you need a database connection. So what you have to do is you just have to include that particular file, and then you have to create an instance of that database database connection object. That's all. Automatically your connection is created. Now on this connection, you want to execute some command there. How we can do that? Let's take some example for db1.php. Let's say we want to execute this last one, this last one. Okay, this last instruction we want to execute. So I'm copying it and I'm pasting it there. But directly can I execute? See here, here everything is same. Say echo br, it will create nothing to do with the actual execution of it. No, remove that. No problem. And then see, this is the like string version of the command, right? Select name from student details, your name like this, done. Template creation, okay, no, because at this point there is no question of connection. At this point here is a question of connection. See here, connection arrow prepare. See, we need this prepare statement can be executed on a PDO object, right? And from where we can get that PDO object? See, in db1 that connection, see here, in db1 that connection conn was this connection, right? That PDO object there. Now in db2, where do we get the connection object without creating the connection? Because this dbo is not a PDO, right? This dbo is see here, the type of dbo is database connection. It is not a PDO object. But you see, if you see there inside this database connection, you see that this dot connection is actually, now we inside the constructor, what did we do is we created a PDO object and we stored that object in this connection variable, and that connection variable we made public. It means what? That connection variable we can access from outside the class also. It means what? From here, like this connection, what we can do is, if you want to keep everything as it is, then what you can do is you can declare a temporary variable here called connection, and then In that temporary variable, what you can do is you can store dbo arrow connection, co and see this DBO arrow connection. See, as soon as see what is the type of that DBO arrow connection, it is it is PDO object. See, connection is a variable of type PDO object, so it will solve your problem. You can either do this and rest of the things will work. See, now suppose I execute my db2.php. I press enter. See the same output I'm getting here. Or what I can do is I do not have to actually declare this variable again, because this variable is same as this variable, right? So what I can do is, instead of writing here connection, so suppose I do not want to declare that variable, I know, like here I have to specify a PDO object, and I have a PDO object. Whereas the PDO object, I know it is there in this DBO object. Inside that DBO object, there is a PDO object whose name is connection, so I can use it in this way. Okay, so I'm gonna say this part, DBO arrow connection, is a PDO object. On that PDO object, you are calling this prepare function. So you should get the same output here. You should get the same output here. If it is confusing, then what you can do is, if you want, you can put a bracket around it. Now that will make it more readable. Now, DBO arrow connection is a PDO object. On that PDO object, you are calling this prepare function. On that video object, you are calling this prepare function. Things should make sense here, right? So now see, we are reusing the code every time we need a database connection. Like in any file we need a database connection, what we can do is we can just include the reference of this class, and then we can create an instance of that class. Done. And since inside that class we have a data member called connection, which actually ultimately points to a PDO object. So every time we need to need a connection object, then what we can do is we can actually on that object we can refer to the connection object, right? Got it? I mean, the last few lines, although it's like mixed up, I do not know, but still things should make sense. Okay, I mean, you got the point, I guess, right? I mean, that is why I declare this particular piece of data member as a public member function, because I wanted to access it from outside the class. Okay, done. Now, on this, now suppose you have a third file, db3.php, and inside that also you need a database connection. So what you can do is you can create the database connection in this way. You just include that file here, reference, and then create an instance of this database connection class. And using that instance, now you can execute any instruction that you want. Okay, done. Now, let's now, most of the things are done. Now, what we are going to do is that, like, for each of, now let's since we did now, object-oriented programming, let me create here another database class. And that, why am I creating the database class here? Sorry, not a database class. Let me create here another class. Why am I creating the class here inside this DB handler? Because that will interact with the database. That's why I'm creating it inside this folder, and like that will be a part of that will be a part of our project. That's why actually I'm creating it here. Okay, like this db1 and db2, these are for demonstration purpose. They are not part of my actual project there. I created them because just to explain you the things. Okay, and this I created inside this particular folder because I wanted this particular file to be part of my project. Now here, the third one I'm going to create. Now here, see, I'm going to create another file, and that will do some database operation, and at the same time that will be part of my project. And let me call it, say, db stud and the student db let s capital stud and the student the I have a student details dot php. Just I'm creating a PHP file, simple enough, right? Like this file. Now here, what am I doing is, say, let's um, I will need one database connection here. Okay, so for that reason, I'll do the same thing that I did this inside this db2. I need a database connection, means I will be doing it up to this part. I'll be copying here. Done. Okay, and this is the end of my PHP file. Done. I list the root folder require one. I'm including the reference to this particular file, and then inside that file the class definition of database connection is there, and since that file is now included, I'm creating an instance of this database. I will need as I'm creating, but actually I'll not create it here, I'll create it somewhere else, but I'll need that. That's why for that reason I'm creating this, I'm including this file at least for the time being. Now what am I doing here is that I'll create another class here, class called now, and again I'll call it db stub and the student dbil student details. Again, coincidentally, the name of the class and the name of the file, they turned out to be the same. But do not you think that that is a mandatory thing? Okay, I could have called it anything, but for some reason, I mean, just to indicate that it is a database class, I have written this DB, and just to indicate that like this database class will deal with the database table, student details table. That's why I have written it in this way. But this name, certainly you can keep anything as you want. I know that's okay. Now inside this class, I do not want to declare any data member. I just want to write a public function there. Public function. I want to create a public function. What that function what I want that function to do is I want that function to to return me the ID, get the ID, if I specify the roll number and the password. Okay? That's a function I'm writing. That's a public function that will return me like that is a public function whose name is get ID, and that function will return me that function will take roll number and password, some variable. Actually, you do not have to write it as roll number and password. You can write it as anything A and B, but I'm trying to give some meaningful name again. So roll number and password, that will take two input parameters, and what that function I want this function to return is that like connect with, I want this function to do this thing, connect with or inside that function itself I'll write it in comment. I want this function to do this, connect with the database, and now return the ID column from the student details, maybe underscore was there, student details table, where the roll number and password is a match. What I mean by is a match is the same as the incoming roll number and password. Okay. Okay, anyhow, that's just a comment. You do not need to worry. I mean, just to give you some hints like what I want this function to do. So for that reason, what I need is it has to connect to the database, right? I mean, I'll write it in two different files because while editing the video, I might crop some part from the right hand side, so it might not be visible. So now, what I want is that column for student details table where roll number and password is match. Yes, okay, good. That's just a description or some hints like what this function is doing. But ultimately, what I want is that I want, as soon as I call this function, I want to make a database connection. So for that reason, I'll be creating a database object. So $DBO is equal to new DB connection is there? No. How was it written? Database connection, new database connection. Yes, right, that is the name of the class, right? It should be same as the name of the class. Whatever the name of the class, that should be same. It should be same with that. Now DBO is equal to new database connection. It is created now. Once that object is created, now what I want is that I want to execute an SQL command there, right, on that connection. Now what command I want to execute, say for example command is equal to, I want to retrieve the ID field. So select ID from student details table, stub and student underscore details, where um, roll number is equal to some, again roll number, and password is equal to some placeholder. Select ID from student details where roll number is equal to some placeholder roll number, and password is equal to some placeholder password. Done. this is the command that I want to execute, right? And then what I want to do is I want to create a template. I want to create a template, and I want to create the template by first thing is I need a PDO object. So that PDO object I'll get from this DBO object arrow connection. That is actually a PDO object. On this PDO object, I want to create this prepare statement, prepare function, and there I want to pass this command. That is the string, actually string version of the command. Now that template is created successfully, most probably, and then what I want to do is I want to execute that template with some real value. And how do I execute? Let's first execute it, dollar template arrow execute. That's all. You can call this execute function. Done. And here I want to pass an associative array because it has two placeholders. So I'll be creating an associative array. This is my one element, and this is my under element. Okay, and the first element is this. Is the first and a key of the first element is roll number, and the second key is my second placeholder. And the value of the first key, what I want is this dollar roll number, See here, I could have used bind parameter or bind value. I could have taken that approach also, like bind value and bind parameter. But I think this is a shorthand notation of doing the same thing. Roll number is roll number, and then password. Even see, in future you will come to know. Even you can make it more compact actually. And then password is equal to now this parameter should take the value from the variable that input parameter of the function password, right? This one I'm talking about. This roll number is this roll number, and this password is this password. Whatever the incoming values are there, so the first incoming value will fill the first parameter, second one will fill the second placeholder, and that with this actual value I want to execute this template, and this template was created from this particular string version of the command. Okay, done. So now this will return you something, right? I mean, actually this is a select command, so it will return you a table. And what I want is it connects the database and return the ID. I want that function to return me something. Okay, in PHP function you do not have to mention like what is the return type and all. So simply create a variable. The variable is ID, and by default I am storing -1. That is, if that roll number and password is not a match, -1 will go to this function will return -1. Otherwise, what I want is, say for example, dollar return table, because you know that this particular function, that is after the execution of this command, it will return you a table. So return table is like dollar template arrow, and then you fetch all the rows, whatever the rows selected by that particular command, using this option PDO fetch associative. Okay, fetch associative. You are interested in all the rows selected by this particular command. There could be only one row, either one row or 0 rows. Okay, now see, how do we know like whether there are 1 rows or 0 rows? Actually, we can first check that. Now, if we know that row count function, right? If then dollar this thing template arrow row count, that is a function, if it is greater than 0, it means if there are some rows which are returned by that particular command, then we can do something, right? If there are no rows, it means it is not a match, then we do not have to do anything. That time we will simply return this default value. But if it is a match, then we want that column field, right? So if it is a match, first thing is that we're going to retrieve the data in the form of a table, because this will be in the form of a table, like as I have explained in most probably half an hour back. So this fetch all will retrieve, see here, although we know that it will have only one row and one column, but then also you have to think it in terms of like rows and columns there. Okay, return table, that's why I'm saying it as return table. Let me write it as return table. And then what we want to do is these ID I want to store as return table. return table row number 0, and what is the column number. See, that is the advantage of receiving the data in terms of an associative array. In row number 0, whatever the name of the column, whose name is, sorry, in row number 0, I'm interested in the column whose name is id, and it is actually, that is the advantage of retrieving the data with these option fetch associative. If you retrieve the data in the form of an associative array, then what will happen is all the keys and all the columns will, all the columns that your command is retrieving, the column names will be used as keys. So if you know the column names, then you can use those column names which are there in the database table as keys to retrieve, the values there. That's advantage actually. Okay. Anyhow, if this command selects any rows, then what you are interested in is that you are interested in the ID column of the 0th row. Anyhow, if it returns anyhow, it will select only one row, and that one row is certainly at the 0th index. So return tables 0th row, and the name of the column is ID. This command will work, like even if you write a star there, then also this will work. Or you see, since it is going to return you only one column, then if you want, you can write there a 0 also, right? You can write in any way you want, but I'll prefer writing here the name of the column. Okay, done. Now if it is the case, if it is not the case, then I will not do anything. I mean, basically I do not have to do anything, because by default the id is -1. You might be thinking, so you have written it within double quotation. No problem. I mean, you can write it as a string, or you can write it as numbers. It doesn't matter much, at least in this case. Okay, done. And this thing is this thing is this, and then this, and then this, and at the end what we want to do is we want to return then $id. So either -1 will be returned, or the actual id of that particular column will be returned. Let's now make use of this class in this function, sorry, in this particular file. Now we are not interested even, like here, see, in db2 we are not going to explicitly make a database connection. So for that reason, we'll be not using this particular file. We'll be not including this file. What file we'll be including is, we'll be including this particular file. See, this particular file. Now, see, and then again, we'll not be creating a database connection here. Explicitly, suppose we do not need that now. We are interested in this particular class, and then we'll be creating an instance of this class, here. And then what we want to do is, we just want to call a function from that class. Oh, no, inside this class, there is only one function that I can do, that this function I can call only, right? Now see, what I'm going to do is, just see here, things will make, now I'm at the last, as I said, no, last a few minutes I'll use to complete this login page to fix this problem. We are almost there. We are in the last few minutes. Now see here, what am I going to do is, I'm going to call that function dbo arrow. What is that function? Now you can call, see, you can, since it's a variable, you can call anything, and database object muted. But the thing is that now this time this dbo is actually an instance of this dbo student details. Okay, now on that you can actually get id function. See here there is a function get id. That function I want to call get id, and there, see, what are the the parameters it is asking for: roll number and password. So give it some roll number, some password. And then what you do is, since it is returning you some value, you store the return value in a variable, say rv, and at the end you display echo $rv. Now let's see, it was asking some roll number, some name. I'm just giving some blank and blank, and then I'm like executing it, right? I mean, this db2 I'm executing. As expected, it will return me -1. It is giving me -1, right? Because that there is no roll number which is blank, there is no roll number which is a blank string, there is no password. I mean, this pair is not there actually, right, in my table. Now suppose let's give it a CSB21001. That roll number is there, we know. And also we know that the corresponding password is most probably ABC123, most probably. Okay, let's see what it returns me. If I call this, then it is returning me 1. I mean, see here, that CSB21001, the corresponding password ABC1, so it is a match, so it is returning me the corresponding ID. Let me try some random one, that this one, CSB21013. This is the username and password is admin123. Let's try it. So if I give this roll number and this password, I should get the output as 12, right? Where CSB, oh, I forgot immediately. 13, roll number 13. CSB this, roll number 13, and the password is admin123. I should get the result as most probably 12. Let's see. I'm getting it as 12. So from here, what now see, like if I mismatch the password, say W with something. And this time, although that username is there, but password is not a match, I should get a -1. See, it means what? From here, what I can conclude that if the username and password is valid, if it is valid, then I should get a number which is greater than 1, maybe equal to 1 or greater than 1. But if I get a -1, it means that that pair is not there, right? And that is what actually we have to do here. We have to check if this pair is a valid pair or not. And how do we do that? Here already we have written all the necessary code. This is what we are doing here actually. See, DBO get ID, whether we are checking actually whether this roll number we are passing, this is the corresponding password. Now, if this pair exists there in the database, then we always get some ID, and all these IDs are there in the table which are greater than 1 or greater than or equal to 1. We are getting -1 only when that pair doesn't exist, right? And that is what we were trying to solve at the beginning for this particular handler. So what we can do is now to fix our problem, that like for this login page, any roll number, sorry, for this login page, any roll number and password, valid roll number and password, in the sense that any roll number and password which is there in the database, if I specify this login page, then it should say that this is valid. Or for any pair which is not there in the database, it should say me invalid, isn't it? That is the problem we're trying to solve. So it means what? In db2 we already had solved it. So if the way we solved it in db2, the same way we'll be solving it then in slogin asx.php also, because both of them are php files. See, our things are almost done, you see. So what we'll be doing is in slogin.asx also we will be doing this. First thing is that we'll be including that sorry, yeah, we'll be including that db student details file, and then we'll be creating a student details object inside this asx handler. Done, right? And then what we're going to do is that now here I'll be writing $id is equal to, on that object, dbo, on that object we'll be calling get id function, and one other parameter, roll number and password. That roll number and password is already there, that our username is the roll number, and then our $pwd is the password. And now this function, this id will be -1 if it is invalid, and it will be 1 or greater than 1 if it is valid, right? So instead of now checking this, what we're going to do, we are going to check that id. If id is equal to -1, right? If id is not equal to -1, and then we are this will work, but anyhow, if id is greater than -1, no, you can do it certainly in many ways, so I'm writing it in this way. If id is equal to -1, then we know that the status is error. Right? That's for sure. We know if the id is -1, then the status is error. But if it is not -1, then the status is okay, right? Right? Agree? Done. And the rest of the things we do not have to do any change here. See here, only thing, that's all we have to decide, isn't it? Let's now try our login page now at the end. Here, let me write anything. CSM21001. and I do not know what is the password against it. So I'm writing as. It is an invalid, certainly. I'm doing it. Invalid username and password, it is saying. But let me check what is the password against that CSM21001. CSM21001. No, it's not there, I guess. CSM 21001 is ABC123. Okay, ABC123. If I type ABC123, believe me, I'm typing ABC123. I'm clicking on login, and it is saying me that it is valid username and password. See, our goal is actually fulfilled. Like we did that task, right? Isn't it? Yeah, certainly we have to go a long way. I mean, even after this video also we have to, you know a lot of things are yet to be done, but still, at least whatever I said that I'll be doing in this video at the beginning of the video, we are almost done. I mean, almost done. 99% is done. I'll be finishing this video in just 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, done even. Now what we have to do is that, let's say this is the username SWS21001, and password is admin123. Let me give this one as username and password, and let's check whether it works or not. SWS21001 admin123. Okay, let me give it SWS21001, and the password is ADMIN123. Login as X, valid username and password. Say 1234. Login as X call, invalid username and password, right? It's working. That's all then. Then what are the things that we learned in this video? See, the end was very smooth, isn't it? We didn't have to do much, and that is the advantage of writing code in a uh, maintaining the code in a proper way. I mean, see, in this file, although we are making we are internally making a database connection, and then we are retrieving the content of the table, and we're checking whether it is same as whether this username and password is there in the table or not. All these things are done inside this particular function, right? And this function is there inside this particular file, db student details. So you can go to that file and you can see, okay, db student details. Here you're actually making use of this database connection. Here, you have not written any code to connect with the database. That part, you have stored already inside this particular file. So you just included that file and you created one instance of that file. And the basics of this, this is about the organization of the code, and all the basics, like how do you make a connection, how do you execute commands on a connection, and all that I explained with the help of this db1.php file. Okay, so that's all more or less. And then this is the content of db student. This is the content of db connection, and this is the content of slogin as x.php. Now that's all. Now see here, out of in today's class, I created 2 files outside any folder. I mean, directly inside this our project one, because these 2 files sort of, they are not part of the main project. And 2 files I created, certainly at the end, like these 2 files will be using again and again, I mean, in our application. So for that reason, I created these 2 files inside this folder. And again, see here, both these 2 files are actually doing some sort of database things. Like this is for making the database connection, and this is for, like, that particular student details table. This particular class is actually interacting with that student details table, and then it is retrieving some information from it. So that is the like general approach. You can think, like, although it is not the case always, you can think like there will be like one-to-one for each database table. Not always, again I'm saying, for each, more or less, most of the times, for each database tables we'll be having one corresponding php class that will be interacting with that database table, like inserting data to the table, retrieving data to the table, updating the information in that particular table. Okay, we'll have that one-to-one, we'll try to maintain. But again, as I said, no, it is not always the case. Sometimes what will happen is the same class will be connecting with more than one table. You know that thing, right? There's some situations where all the information you might not find in a single table. There might be like more than one table where your needed information is spread it over. So at that time, certainly this one-to-one mapping will not maintain. But then also, it makes the code more maintainable actually. But anyhow, my main point today in today's video was to explain you the how you can make a database connection and how you can execute some command there programmatically, specifically using PHP program, and then how you can retrieve the information returned by an SQL command and how you can process those information. Although it is like I didn't say you like all the things, certainly it is not possible, but the basic things I told you, and if you know this much, then you can consider it as the starting point, and you can explore things by yourself. And again, when we'll be doing the series is not yet over. I mean, most we are very much close to the and like close to the end of our first use case. Most probably in my second video, in my next video, I'll be finishing the first use case, that is this login page. Although you think that, sir, what is left there in this login page, and there are some few things left, that there are some few final nails I yet have to put there, but most of the things are done, but certainly a few things are left, and that I will be telling you in the next video. Okay, and most probably that will be end of the first use case, and after that we'll go for another we'll go for a few more use cases there. Okay, but again, those future few use cases might not take you so many hours, because most of the things, most here, see, in this use case, I had to explain you most of the things, right? Starting from these HTML, CSS, JavaScript, AJAX, database connection, and a PDO objects, and all these things I had to explain. So for that reason, it is taking a lot of time. It took a lot of time. But those next use cases, certainly, I'll be assuming that you people know these concepts, and I'll explain you only those things which I didn't explain you in these 5 or 6 videos. So that's all then for today. um, have a nice day. See you in the next video.